Yes, I got it for dinner.
Or something.
Just a couple days.
Oh, okay.
Next one. Yeah, I didn't.
No, and that's the point.
We're getting there.
Getting there.
Slowly but surely.
Got it. There you go. 5.
I think all you do is just like the last thing, just on you.
Welcome to the 23rd meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission at Municipal Center in Bellingham, beautiful Bellingham at 10 Mechanic Street. We are welcoming a new member tonight, Nicole Forsyth. Welcome aboard. Happy aboard. We're both good applicants, which is great to see in town that we're interested in applying for a Conservation Commission opening. That happened when Neil Bailey, our longtime member and vice chair for a quarter of a century, retired and he's moved out of town. But we give him a thanks again for his service up there all those years, and welcome to Nicole. Look forward to your expertise and being on board. And if you want to say anything in particular, you feel free to reach out right now. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
Sure tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Nicole has a lot of experience with trees and arborists and towns and cities and regulations for that, as well as doing academics in the field of environmental and trees and another term must be horticulture and landscape design and so forth. So all those are going to be certainly beneficial, and look forward to getting the benefit of your input as you get more and more comfortable. Something comes up tonight, and you want to chime in, ask questions, stop stuff, that's your role in Conservation Commission, so I encourage you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving along, we have a RTA for a location at 79 Whitehall Way for the alteration of the buffer zone for the removal of vegetation and expansion of the deck. Ms. Patel of 79 Whitehall Way. Online insight. Come up to the table here so we can hear you, please. Yes, this is a new hearing. I'm going to say that. That's good. So we are going to get a little description. We have something we can throw from the board. We're going to put something up on the screen so people can look along, and both in the audience if there's anybody. Is there anybody else here who's a butter or something at this project? You want to get a better location, see a screen or something? That's fine. So you're going to be expanding your deck a bit. There's already a deck there. Yeah. I'm looking at the plans and seeing to be that case. And wanting to alter the buffer zone, in what way would you describe it in general terms?
So there's trees that are decaying, they have like mushrooms, they have massive trees, and maybe like 2 doors a couple years, because this fell
Mm-hmm.
and those trees were much further in from the trees near my property.
Further in meaning out in the wetlands, further back away.
Yeah. So it's just been crouching, like the growth is now crouching for 20 years.
Growth.
Tree growth. So we had an arborist come through, mark the trees that were not healthy, that were dangerous, we moved onto the house itself.
So Sharon, take a look at that and given a recommendation, given the examination of trees, that some of them are unstable because of the mushrooms or other growth in the trees, which were deteriorating the stability of the tree as well as the light, perhaps. Some of those you can see a little bit of that in the pictures that accompany this application or this request for an RDA. And what we're doing tonight to Tana explain that. So we're looking to see whether you need to go through the formal process of a notice of intent and a more involved, longer term application process, or whether While we're reviewing this tonight, the commission members feel comfortable in saying, you don't need to do that. So in this case, if we say no at the end of this, that's a good thing for you, because that means you don't need to go any further with the process. So a no is good here, in this case, rare, but that's a good time. And then, if we don't agree with it, we feel that something more is needed to be involved, we'll bring that up. And, make note of whether it needs to be part of an NOI application, or whether it could again be done as part of the request for determination if you do the following couple of things. So the commission members have seen the slideshow. Those of you who have had a chance to look at the information in the portal and pictures and so forth, any initial questions or observations?
I think it's fairly straightforward.
I thought some of the trees looked a little bit, they weren't located like little circles on the plan, which is what I was kind of hoping. I was trying to relate the tree to the description on the tree to where it might be in relation to the property. It was a little hard to tell in some of the pictures. Some of them seem to be off to the driveway side, which is out of the resource area. So that's something you would have the right to do on your property without coming to us. Some of them were there were a couple that were, I think they were described as saplings, but they weren't on the driveway side. It said on the southeast side of the home, and I didn't have a north compass on it to tell which way the southeast was from the plan, but I was wondering whether those were well over the line and standing up straight, and if there were saplings, would they would just fall down?
I think most of the trees that he ended up marking was eventually they're gonna push against each other.
Right, and in natural resource areas, we try not to disturb trees and come down just to keep it neat looking, because that's not the intent. Safety is a high priority for us. We obviously don't want trees falling from a resource area or anywhere else in your yard to hit a house or people playing in the yard or cars and so forth. So we'll take that under advisement too. But if, for example, these little orange marked saplings that are in the picture there, those to me are not of a size in a resource area that to me necessarily, unless they were already dead, would require removal. They're not starting to fall over and hit your house, and I hope they not do that. They're not, I think, creating a safety hazard and not having any activities back there. Is the in that part of the yard in front on the grass area, if you walk through those trees towards the house, or garage, whatever the distance there,
The back.
the side of the
that's
house,
the
I see the car parked there, okay. If you walk through that area, I can see up to the right-hand side, it looks like some of the post and beam fence was falling apart down over there. Did that fence line originally go across right in front of this area here too?
It went like, the tree was like right in the middle. That big fat tree that you see, it's just like right on the top.
Right in the fence line?
Yeah. It's like
But the fence line extended around the back of the grass area all the way over to this far, because I don't see any other fence right there.
Right.
One picture up, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, that's good.
Most of the fence, is most of the fence down?
Yeah, the tree come through it, just pushed it down, so.
And how close is that on the plan to the resource area? Yeah, we've been up for most of those, except for the stuff on South Driveway. But right. And another however many feet, I'm saying that's 42, is probably looks like it's the back of the deck area. But we're proposing more to be another, at least number 42. So you're 20. So yeah, you're 40 or 50 feet from the 60 feet maybe from the deck to the resource area, probably looking at the plan. And who drew up this plan? Is this you or?
No, this is just part of the,
Tom?
Yeah, there was an old plan for the house, and this was the as-built as part of that filing, and she just sketched where she was across the floor.
The silt fence and hay bales are no longer there. One of that aspect's not correct.
Right, and we would also,
And most of the fence is gone.
right, and I think as part of some of the proposed conditions that we need to replace the fence with markers, because we don't want people going into the resource area. You would probably know that, but somebody else who buys the house does not necessarily. And any erosion control measures would never have hay bales, because hay, just so you know, hay has seeds in it from invasive species, and you don't want to end up planting a bunch of stuff, putting stuff there temporarily and have the seeds fall. So straw bales are clean to that stuff, so we specify straw bales, and silt fence if it was needed. Just so you see, that would change on that, on the order. Any conditions we try to set with this project. So how many trees totally? I thought I saw 8 listed,
I think
but
so.
does that include those little saplings as well, or
I
not?
think so, yeah, but I
big
think
ones.
it's something, we
Yeah,
just
I
have to
don't
do.
think-
Okay, since they were mentioned and they were orange spotted, I'm like, that's what I'm trying to get clarity on. And I think I agree with Marianne. Having them marked on here would have been helpful, just to see, okay, these are way up to the side out of the resource area. We don't have anything to say about that per se, although you're informing us, and that's nice. But the areas that we really are most concerned about are anything within the 50-foot. Do not disturb, 25, do not disturb, 50-foot buffer zone, which we try to maintain as little impact as possible. 25, but absolutely. But the 50-foot, if it's not needed, like I said, the saplings are in there. But if the other trees are at risk, very large, and are likely to fall in the direction of the yard, even if they wouldn't hit the house, but fall into your yard, and if someone's walking by, that way. Now, if you get hurt, we certainly would want to have that.
I think, yeah, the arborist, when he walked around, I said, mark one, that would be thinking that more likely to fall toward the house.
Did he do tree risk assessments on the trees? Like ISA tree risk assessments, tree risk assessment, but I'm not sure if that's like required within like a wetland situation like this.
Well, we try to get somebody, when you said an arborist, I'm looking at a proposal from Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon Tree sent someone out.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that person say they were an arborist? Because, okay,
Are they
Yeah,
certified,
they-
Massachusetts certified arborists?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what he said, he's working with the town.
yeah, because Sharon is a contractor who wants to do the work, and they can come out and give you a price certainly.
Yeah.
And might be able to say in a qualified way, even the guy on the crew, this tree's dead or dying or
Yeah.
whatever. But we would want to get somebody either from the town does have a tree warden who would come out at no cost to you and assess things that were on conservation property and help draw a conclusion. Somebody like Nicole has a lot of experience with this exact kind of thing, so she was asking for that.
I am a certified arborist and I have my track.
I had 2 of them come by, so they both kind of.
2 different companies for the
different
tree
companies.
estimates, but I'm just trying to
No,
make sure.
no, they're both arborists, 2 different companies.
For 2 different companies,
Yeah,
okay, as long as they show you some certification or at least state that they are certified, that's enough for us. We don't need to have them prove that at this point in time for a project like this.
Because on these photos, like I'm not really seeing like the mushrooms and stuff, like, and like a couple of the trunks, just upon looking at the photos, look good. I don't know, I'm kind of like
Are any
questioning.
of these trees dead, like there's no growth on them at this time of year, there'd be leaves on them for hardwoods or at
No,
least
if you
lots
look
of
through
great
at
pine
the
needles?
top, some of them, they have no leaves, you know. Pretty good distance up.
On
There's
branch,
no, they're just encroaching each other, there's no air of the light coming through at all.
I'd be interested to stop by and look at them myself.
yeah, I mean, certainly it doesn't hurt to have another set of eyes. Not a contractor's arborist, but either a town or somebody on a commission who's experienced and has qualifications to give a second look at it. Again, our focus is, and I think it would be helpful for us in this project to be able to identify which trees are in our jurisdiction and which ones aren't, because of the 8, we may really only be qualified to speak on our, comment on 4 of them or 5 of them. And the other ones, you could do what you want to with them, and you don't have to go to the south side 100 foot.
Is there any way to put the location of the trees on this map?
Well,
The majority did look, because it's, all of the pictures I took were kind of from the corner of that driveway to the other, like, corner of the house. So it seems like they were pretty much all within the 100 foot. A lot of them, most of them did appear to be within like that 80 to 100, but there were a couple that were a lot closer, especially that one maple tree, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very nervous about these trees because the tree file of my neighbors are, it costs $150,000 for damage on their house and insurance. So I'm kind of nervous that these, I mean, literally you can stand on my deck and have to shake hands with that.
something like that is in imminent danger, imminent danger potentially. One of them showed a great dealing, I don't know if it was the maple or something else, where you could see this, the
Yeah.
roots are starting to get out. that one will go down probably in the next storm likely, so I would make that the top priority.
Actually-
I don't know. Good, Steve.
You said the neighbor's insurance dropped them?
Yeah, after $150,000 thing, for that tree that fell.
That's accept- So we're not saying that this project could go forward at all. I think we're just looking for a little more clarification as to which trees we actually do have the right to say something about, and enable the yeses, take them all down after seeing it, but not knowing exactly where they are at hand, this description is good, and it helps. You're standing on the corner of the driveway house, shooting sort of diagonally across the back, or just in that area.
Yeah, so all of the trees, I kind of went, or the photos, I kind of went from that corner near the driveway up and around.
Around towards the
And then
back.
one that's leaning the most is in the corner off of the, where the retaining wall is over there. It's like right on the edge of the lawn, next to that. specifically. They're all kind of
Closest
right
to where it
over-
says retaining wall, the word retaining wall, and it's over in that area.
It's
where the
over,
house is.
it's right over here.
Oh, okay. So that's within,
So it kind of just went through it.
certainly within the. In that
Yeah.
neighborhood.
I was thinking, sure, most of these trees are between the like old table, they are.
Right.
And what,
Yeah.
between that and fencing houses, where the trees are between those two.
Right, so we're closer to the house, but also further away from the buffer zone. That's,
And
So they're right on that
there were
edge.
a couple in here, and that one really big one was, maybe 35 feet from the edge of the house. I mean, it's not flagged out, but just from walking where I was, on the edge of the lawn, edge of the lawn. And that was the big one that had some of the, there were some mushrooms along the side. I didn't get a really good photo of it, but you could definitely see it kind of crazy now.
But is that tree leaved or is it looks like an oak, I can't. It's hard to tell just,
Yeah, it's kind of tough to tell what looking, but yeah.
because it almost,
looking
as I like, look at the top.
Looks like a red maple.
Yeah, that's it was the red maple.
Okay, so it has leaves.
Not too much as you're going up. There. And then the
Lots of dead
mushrooms are
branches.
along that right.
lots of branches, they're dead, obvious, it should be fairly down. What, can you show the one that's leaning the most?
That's
That's the
kind of in
last
the
page.
middle section there, and
Yeah.
then we're going around
Around the backside,
the
yeah.
backside of the house. And then this is that.
And double oak mark removal south of the house, is the double oak the most left side, on the left side of the
I
screen?
believe it's this one.
Yeah, okay, that's what I kind of thought.
Yep. And then, so that's kind of. That's kind of what over here now. And then.
That is being recorded, you make that go away, because that's right over the top of where
Yeah,
you're
you
going.
know,
But I think it could okay with it, but.
Are there going to be any remaining large trees?
oh yeah,
Oh,
there's,
yeah.
there's plenty in the back. There's a bunch.
This is like probably 0.01%.
And then that's.
That's the one I would say is,
That's the one.
if I was a homeowner on this one, I'd be like, okay, we're just gonna take
That's
this
right
tree
up
out
right
tomorrow.
there.
That one's probably the furthest away at the most.
Furthest away from,
The weapon.
oh, yeah, right. Close, one of the close ones to the house. Yeah. Even if that one has leaves, it's the point now, it's pretty obvious that's the roots are starting. to
Yeah,
come
that
back, so
one for sure.
Whatever, Brian, whatever. pieces. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the commission here?
Well, it sounds like we have members that want to cite this.
Right, so how fast can we do that? It sounds like this is something you want to do. I was gonna ask how fast the contractors could come out if you got them okay to do at least a limited, if not complete.
I'm just really worried about this one. The kids get nervous, they just. spend
Yeah, no, we don't
20
wanna,
years.
we don't wanna drag this out for
Or
sure.
they've been there a while.
Right, but that longer, looks like filling up that could go in
Have
next.
we wanting a marked up drawing?
Well, I think if somebody's gonna
For
site
record.
visit, they would at least approximately locate as best they could off the corner of the house on. We don't have to have the exact location, because I don't know if that might.
We're gonna go to that, we put the rough location, I can see, and the size, height,
Approximate estimate of height.
yes.
I'm gonna guess, you guesstimating heights.
Pretty good.
Okay.
I
So
do
we
tree
know-
risk assessments for the city of Boston.
So we have a record of each for the house.
Right, well, we look like we're gonna be having a.
I think that would still be outside the 21 days.
When did we receive this?
I don't have the exact.
Do you know when you made the application originally with Hannah? So,
I've been working on this for like a month, I think, month and a half for now.
okay, well,
It was dated July.
We extended the applicants one year? For no.
Yeah, well, it's, I mean, if we were willing to get the denial or ask if we can get an extension, you know, we can go that way.
Well, either or,
But
so we
request
can just
it.
extend. And before I do all that, anybody else other than Nicole wanna go take a look at this? And if so, we'd have to be fairly available like soon.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it tomorrow, like,
Yeah, I can do it tomorrow.
but just like my 10 cents, like in my experience with trees. Some of them, you know, I do tree risk assessment for the city of Boston, some of the trees you look at, you're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna come down tomorrow. But it depends on the species of tree, like that double leader oak, like that could last another 50 years. It depends on like the leaf, like so many different like situations that I'd really like to just look at to make sure that like taking down such a big tree that provides so many ecosystem services is really worth it. Or if it's really close to your, I'm really good at estimating like targets with my tree risk assessment qualification. And I can like say, yes, okay, this is really close to your house and this should come out, like, you know, it's okay. You know, so I'd rather just get some eyes on it, to make sure.
I kind of feel like if you had an argument out, and I would just feel bad to put this off a lot more. It seems like some of these really are lenient and are pretty close to our house. I mean, I would also want to go to state, but I'm not gonna have any availability soon. So I kind of feel like I don't want to do the service. And it can wait a long time, I don't know where. Because if you put the application in the file first.
Just doesn't have June.
Well, there's a note on your site visit on June 9th.
Yeah, so we've been kind of, as soon as we were talking about a potential request, I went out there and then it's been a couple different, she's come in for a couple different meetings before the request was done. So I don't have the exact, if I have my file here, I would have the stamp, we got it stamped at the assessor's office and in the town clerk office that tells us, okay, it was completed on this date, but I don't have that with me. So I think I'm.
Is it in the portal?
Nope.
Okay. Well, both of us can make it tomorrow. I'm flexible tomorrow, I can make it.
I'm free after this.
It's not,
My only concern with that is, even if you guys can make it tomorrow, it's just when would you be able to get the determination? So
oh,
potentially-
yeah.
yeah, so the next meeting is the.
supposedly the 13th, but it looks like to meet another project's 21 days. We're gonna probably need to meet on the 6th, depending on what their applicant's representative says. Sitting in we'll see. How that goes. So we very likely are gonna have a very limited but special meeting, not long, every month, but occasionally it's a deadline, just when we have to do that. And then we only have one in a month because we have town meeting, so there you go, or Christmas, or Thanksgiving, but it balances them. So if we did that, if we proposed to have a meeting on the 6th, if nothing else for this, but probably for at least one other thing, that would really add another week, basically, a week and a half. To the process where on the 6th, we could hear the review, make a determination to probably issue a denial or a limited denial or whatever, which is, and again, that you don't have to apply the negative determination. And then you could proceed as soon after that, with the approval that's given as you want to. So how do you feel about that? You're the applicant, you're the person who has your property risk, you as you.
I mean, I am in fear of these streets. I mean, I wouldn't have even come if I didn't feel an urgency to be addressed. I mean, I've been living in that neighborhood for 20+ years. My entire backyard is treated. I mean, it's most of it's conservation. So
And
I just,
do you have, I mean, I know you're not.
Yeah,
User by it, do you have just any kind of what you saw and what the amount they wanted to take out versus the amount that's going to be there and how close it was and.
yeah, I mean, it did seem like pretty much everything was right on the side of the edge, pretty much all edge. I mean, there were some bigger trees. I didn't personally check, and I mean, I don't do tree assessments, so she had 2 arborists come out already, so I wasn't necessarily evaluating it.
It seems everything is
specifically.
definitely outside the 25,
Yes.
and more to the 100 than the 50. And it's a very small percentage. Well, I absolutely support the site visits. If we walked ourselves into a time window. I mean, I understand that the applicant's sense of urgency, but the trees have been there for the 25 years that she's lived there. But I'm willing to, in my opinion, keeping it in context, that small quantity of trees being removed. They're well out of the 25. By small quantity, meaning as a percentage of the whole, it seems that there's plenty. I'd be willing to forego the delay. But that's just one opinion.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, all things in consideration, I think I agree kind of reluctantly, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I think we're gonna have a lot of other opportunities.
Well, we've had, we have the opportunity, if you wish, if the commission's opinion is, we're gonna go ahead and issue a negative determination, for example, right now, allowing you to proceed with it. You still could take advantage of an excellent resource here, have Nicole come out and take a look at a couple of these trees, especially the big one, which is standing up right there. And what you could do is save yourself potentially a lot of money with the reassurance that somebody who is on our commission wants to look out for your interest, as opposed to arborists who are probably very qualified. I don't know how well they look, whether they're attracted. They certainly want to have a good response for their company they work for. If they don't improve enough trees to be taken down, they go.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. is
I'm not-
conflict
I'm
of
not saying, I
interest.
know Sharon, they're
Yeah.
an expensive company. I've used them on my own property over the years, time to time. I've used other companies. But you could get an opinion which could save you some money, give you a sense of reassurance that this one is definitely, everybody reads it out here, especially.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, these
and
are
reduce
all
the
about
scope.
this one should
yeah, the
stay.
one that actually.
She could possibly
Yeah.
find something the
It's obvious.
others didn't.
Right. On the other hand, it would not make sense, it would be a penalty to you to say, to have us give approval. We'll take that one tree that's really leaning off by itself. And take that out anytime you want to. That's considered an emergency application. It's obviously endangering your house. It's unlikely to last another storm, which we could get a week, we could get into a day. Who knows, thunderstorm comes up. And we would feel bad, more than bad for you as well as. But if you had one of these companies come in to take that one tree down and then come back to take down 5 or 6 more, they're gonna charge you almost
yeah.
double.
Yeah.
And they won't give you a real break for that. They want to come and do it all at once. So I think maybe that might be a good compromise to give you and us the reassurance that, yes, they looked at everything right and we have somebody qualified who can come and see it tomorrow. So it's not delaying you at all. And you could then reduce the scope of budget. The scope we would have to approve would be potentially for everything, because she could agree that everything, let's say, we approve 6. Yeah, subject to any qualifications for site visit or. Yeah. I like that.
So I make a motion for negative determination, subject to site visit. Confirmation.
Up to removal up to the quantity of trees specified.
Or less.
In the agreement. Or less. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion with the members? So you're pretty clear of what we're doing?
Not really, but.
Okay, so.
So like-
Okay, this is what I said before, I know is a good thing, so
Okay.
the board is just recommending, made a motion, we're gonna, we've seconded it, so we're gonna vote on whether we want to give a negative determination of applicability, in which case it doesn't apply for as a notice of intent required project, so you don't have to do anything more.
Okay.
If you get a no now, say that means, yeah, no, you don't do anything else, go ahead and do pure. The only condition was that we have an assessment made tomorrow, I guess, with the new development, and if she says there's something vastly different, so be it. If it's reducing the number of trees, you can do that. We said up to that limit of 8.
Yeah.
But if she says there's 20 more trees, you'd have to come back to us. If she says you're in danger, you agree, there's a whole lot more, especially if it's in the resource area. You have to come back.
And I can look at more than those 8 trees, actually, you might overlook this. Like, I'm interested in your safety as well, like, I'm not just like a tree hugger. Interested in everybody's interest.
Okay, so you understand it, and we've heard the motion in a second. Any other discussion, commission members? Okay, I'll. Yes, and does anybody have any comments, Chris, whether, it looks like you're only adding a few feet around the perimeter of already existing.
It's like just extending it out.
How about how many feet is this going further out on the deck?
I'm not, I mean,
Like 20.
yeah, like
Didn't look
4,
like
6
much for
feet, and then I'm just like, I don't know how big I want it, so I just be a bigger size than I want it, but I'm hoping that probably could go all the way. 6 feet more.
So, 5 or 6 feet more. Over an already disturbed area right next to the house, well, outside of the, might be within 100, but it's outside of 50. All right, so the deck is included as part of the notice of intent. I'm sorry, the RTA. Okay, nothing else. All right. We will do we don't have the moment, do we? So I just want to be sure, because I'm not sure if this is blocking any other applicants. One of our members is off-site. He's not Zoom. Okay, all right, so we won't have him Zoom and voting. Okay, so in that case, all members that are present are all we need. This will be the voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous vote. Thank you. So you are good to go.
Okay.
So you see, if you want to arrange a time with Nicole before you head out the door, that'd probably be good. Or give you a call.
I'm gonna go to the.
Yeah, I'll,
And
I'll catch up with Nicole, I'll give her my phone and she can text me. I mean, I'm a phone number. No, they.
Teachable leader. Okay, thank you very much. We have a notice of intent for a continued hearing, Blackstone Street, alteration of bordering vegetated wetland, BVW, and associated 100-foot buffer zone for improvements to the undeveloped section of Blackstone Street, including infrastructure, utilities, and site grading that Josie Wall Street Development Corporation is the applicant. They requested a continuation because the peer reviewer information has not been.
Oh, that's the other one,
Not
sorry.
today.
You're a little too eager, Paul. You gotta wait one more minute.
Sorry.
So, I know this is a quick one, so I was gonna do this all.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like I've accomplished more. And that's in front of Rob, who's very quiet. Patient. Who's gonna ask.
Stop your review.
What's the name of the company or person? Is Thompson. Okay, so, we have, a request by the applicant to continue this to the next meeting. Which is, August 13th, the next scheduled meeting plan. Any motions to be made by someone here on the commission for that? Then what, we have first and second, Don, thank you. Okay, any other discussion about this item? When an applicant requests, an applicant requests a continuation for a reasonable reason, like in this case, we certainly honor that, we definitely have to do that. And, if so, especially if the applicant is not, is not, as a representative here, we wouldn't be allowed to discuss the actual application itself, just the motion to move it on. So just a pro forma. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and let's continue to the evening at 7 o'clock approximately. 13. All right. Now, come on. While you're walking up, I'll read that we have a notice of intent for continued hearing for Off Lake Street, Prospect Hill Village, which is the construction of a 29-unit townhouse development with compact bordering vegetated wetland bank, land under the water bodies and waterways, borders, land subject to flooding and riverfront area. Is Josie Wall Development Corporation, the applicant and all of the is the representative, although you have a gentleman with you. Is that please?
Paul Knappich with DSC Group.
Appreciate it. See, everybody on
ABI cable who are watching intently know, but is there anybody here for this project?
Rob Truax, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Rob Truax, engineer, is on.
Yes.
Yeah, he is, but he just is not. He's muted and.
Doesn't have a camera on. Well, at least as long as confirm that he can hear us, so he doesn't have to unmute if he doesn't want to speak. If anybody is here for this and wants to make sure that they can see the screen and or that gives me a sense if there's somebody that might have a question near the end, we'll allow potentially. Hi, Rob. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Experience? Okay, we are going to. I'm gonna let Hannah start this off before you jump in, Paul, because she's gonna give a little summary for the commission members. Again, one of whom is brand new. A couple of points that we spent some time discussing, and I might chime in if I know there's one thing I'll chime on it, but I bet she's gonna mention it anyway, so. Go ahead, and once you,
Just in terms of some of the.
stuff that you just,
line
yes.
and stuff.
but what you gathered and how you started that process that you told me about, we talked about.
Sure, yeah, just in terms of, it seems like kind of come to close on it. So I put together another memo. I just sent it to them yesterday about some potential items that were still left to be potentially get some clarification on or discussed a little bit further. In addition to, we know BSC was peer reviewing those 3 limited items after that working group meeting. Because there are a couple ongoing items that we received additional materials to address, which included updated buffer zone operation numbers and what was that list? So additional soil testing, labeling 2 vernal pools, slope stabilization, VGL. Paved spillway off of Lake Street to direct runoff to the 4 bay, cross section through the replication area, flood storage compensation table, revised limited work around the grass swale, and provide buffer zone impact numbers. So while some of that was really helpful, there are a couple things that were kind of outlying that I was a little bit confused of when I was trying to get together all the information. Especially some of the buffer zone impact numbers. Just as far as like they were, outlined on Rob Truax's memo, but some of them were like there's 1,038 square feet of impact to the 25-foot no disturb zone on Lake Ave. And I couldn't tell where that was coming from. So some of those numbers were a little bit confusing as far as how they were calculated.
Well, none necessarily confusing to me. It was, I looked at this, and I was talking about yesterday, and I said, these are just numbers, it doesn't say where they are along, for example, the trunk, the last one, sewer line forest main temporary alteration, given it's temporary, not saying permanent, but it's 25,000 square feet, which is a lot of square footage. 0 to 100 foot, which is a big wide swath on either side of the sewer main, or at least on one side of it. And yet sewer main is a lot more than 25,000, well, probably more than 25,000. I don't know, how long is the sewer line? Rock top of your head?
I don't.
Or, no, I'm thinking Rob might know.
How long is the sewer line?
As far as it impacts the property, not down Blackstone Street. Or, Black. Do you know approximately how long on the site itself the sewer forest line main is that you're talking about temporary alterations to?
How long it is?
Approximately, it's 5,600 feet of impact square footage, but it's not 1 foot on either side of the 25,000 foot long line. That would be 5 mile long line. We know it's not that, but we have no sense. From looking at this information provided you, we have no sense of whether it's a big area here and a small area there and nothing over there, or where it is. Do you have this already on well, I'm hoping somebody walked out there and came up with these numbers. They have areas that they measured on the site, whether it's along Lake Street area. Lake Street area is a real general term. Sewer enforcement that you have on a plan. So in other words, somebody's sketched.
Well, yeah, I calculated the areas based on where we're working, going with the force main, et cetera, but I didn't like,
When you did
I mean,
that,
I can
obviously,
highlight something for you and show you exactly where they are,
I
if that's
think
what
that,
you're thinking.
I'll speak for myself, who give me, and commission members agree with this, they can speak up. Having just numbers and square footage is one thing, and it's certainly helpful for the overall impact in number of square feet, but it gives us no sense at all of where the most sensitive areas might be to us, or in areas of concern versus areas that are less of a concern because they're not high impact, but are still being impacted enough for you to report. So I think, yes, for me, it's something color coded on the existing site plan that shows the housing units and so forth, and detention basins, and your impact areas that are around those that make up those numbers of square footage be really helpful.
We can do that. That's not a very tall task.
It's what?
It's not a very difficult task. We can provide that.
Somebody, to me, in understanding what little I do about engineering stuff, to come up with these numbers, somebody had to be looking at a plan or walking the site, marking up on a plan, okay, here's 2,000 square feet, here's 2,500 square feet, whatever they got it from, and
Sure.
they have that somewhere, pretty much. So yeah, hopefully that's something to be provided. Does the commission have any other questions or thoughts about that? Converting this Truex engineering numbers, do we know what I'm looking at here? Do you see this?
Yeah.
I saw it, Steve? Yeah. The actual numbers of impacts are substantial, 483,000 just for the riverfront area.
Aren't they shown on the drawings?
Not per se that I've seen it.
Some of
Are
the
they?
impacts are like the BGW parts are shown, and like isolated wetlands are obviously being altered, those are pretty easy to pick out. But some of the buffer zone impacts, like along Lakeview Ave, are a little bit confusing, and there's replication area that's mentioned, but I wasn't sure if that was, we had talked about calculating the impacts to the buffer zone associated with the replication area, and also it's just listed as replication area buffer zone impacts, but so I don't know if it's the buffer zone to the replication area or the buffer zone to the BBW that would be altered.
Well, that would be the buffer zone alteration proposed to build the replication. So that
Okay,
would,
to the BBW.
so that would be from existing condition.
Okay.
So all of these areas, because there is limited work, and then there are various buffer zone lines. So from what I understand, the chair is asking for is basically to highlight where those intersect on the plan, because the information is all there, because the buffer zone's there, the limited work is there, and then, where they intersect is, proposed, where they overlap is a better word, is where the proposed buffer zone alteration would be. So it sounds like, so Rob has gone through on a CAD and calculated that to generate the table that you were just looking at. So it sounds like you're looking for him to basically highlight.
Visually be able to see on the map the numbers that show a large quantity of impact overall in square footage, but 483,000 feet, for example, along the riverfront is a large number to me, but out of a million or whatever it is on the site that are riverfront area, let's say maybe it's less than half, which to me says,
Sure.
well, it's still, but how big of an impact throughout the overall site is it? I have no sense visually how to turn that 483,000 into it's here and not along here and so forth. And as you said, some of the areas are already marked up, but are they highlighted marked up, or are they just delineated and we wouldn't know if this is 2,500 square foot?
We can highlight it for you. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a very complicated, but I think to me visually it's very helpful at this point in stage.
Yeah, I could probably put it all on one sheet and do a key sheet type thing and just highlight the areas with the square footages for each impact area.
Right, and Rob, would that show roadways and detention basins and houses, the townhouses and so forth units? Because
It's
that's
all in there, yeah. So I can just highlight the different areas, what they are. I
that
can
sounds
hatch
like
them out. We can do hatched different areas. Some areas are the drainage basins, some areas are the houses, some areas the road, some areas the temporary alteration for the sewer. So it's all in there, but I hear what you're saying. You just want to know where they are on the site, each impact area. And we can break that down and highlight it for you on a plan. Give you like a plan that would show them all. That's not a big deal.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's a request we would like to make, or I would like to make, and the other commission members agree.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll be on that part, and then, okay, sorry. Cut it off.
Oh, that's okay. That's helpful. And then I kind of gone through the couple waiver requests that it seems like they were still outstanding. So the alteration of over 5,000 square feet of isolated wetlands, identifying and locating trees over 10 caliber, and the cut and fill volume. So we kind of discussed that last time. Seemed like there was, at least the last two, the commission has requested that information, but it wasn't really much of a formal vote, so I wasn't sure if that was.
Four or three? Four, right?
The waiver request, or it's three.
Three.
That was at least in my recollection. So those three.
Yes, you're on your notes. All right, how would the commission want to proceed with those waiver requests? Do you want to look at them one at a time and decide on them now, whether we want to waive them or not? I think the applicant would like to know that, so they can either their response or know where they stand on it. And they have been discussed somewhat before, so we could have to get them from scratch. Okay, why don't we just, Hannah, if you wouldn't mind describing, go through one at a time, just take the first one. I don't have it there. The first waiver request that you mentioned.
That was kind of the big one, the over 5,000 square feet of isolated wetlands.
And the number that we are altering, just for the, and for our newest members reference, Paul?
Maybe it's 18,000 feet
That's right. And
of
the rep,
isolated, and then 488 feet.
this is on your own. All right, so we're looking at anything over 5,000 feet, we have to approve, and that's. No, that's not DEP, it's town law, right? That's town law, so our wetlands regulations are in some cases stricter than the state, which you're allowed to, you can't do less than states, and so we did bylaws, 15, 20 years ago, that were approved by the town, and this is one of them, that any alterations of BW or which the wetlands impact needs to be approved as a waiver by the commission if they choose to do so. If they don't want to do, or you question, and if they are going to do a alteration of those areas, they are required to do a replication of 2-to-1 ratio is what we require in the bylaws, which this is just shy. No, just, yeah, 18.
Yeah, 140 feet.
Of that. So that could be, I'm sure the map could be fixed, correct?
I mean, it's
1809 doubled, and then the border, is bordering also 2-to-1?
Yeah, so 1809, 18,090, and then 480. Double, so it's a little bit off from.
So
That was
if
just
they want to do
something I
3-to-1, they could do
saw, and
3-to-1.
then I was kind of trying
That's
to
fine.
go back
More
and calculate all
less
the buffer
confusing.
zone impacts, and I just wanted to make sure those were right.
Such a big area.
It's not like, obviously, but
And that revocation was in. In the buffer zone to an existing replication, existing buffer. In a repairs, right? So they're proposing to go to 3 reference in one area to replicate for the isolated wetlands that they propose filling in and doing as part of the project, so then it doesn't go away. replicating an area that's already got some, resource areas, riparian zone. So it's got high hydrological features and so forth that are already compatible with something that's a replication area. If it's done right, it would have to be, assessed and a plan done by a qualified wetland scientist who we would have monitor the project and make sure it's done properly and that it takes soil out and get hydrology correct and there's plants that are smart enough. So to replicate twice as much in this area as in this case on this project proposed to be
Is this
adjacent to.
area going to be near the
It's gonna
project?
be right in the repair zone, it's on their site, it's just, they're moving it from two
Is it
spots.
common or it's something like that, the inner riparian?
I don't know that you're repairing, I don't remember how many times we've done it, but they usually try to tie it into either an area that's ideal. So like it's a low area that's already not quite wetlands area, but we can modify it. They've done that, if you're middle High Street, and Maple Street, before the Amazon warehouse. That corner right there where those two streets meet, that corner where you see there was a replication. Prior to that, it was like a grassy field that was got a little bit wet.
But then
It
you've got-
turned into a true wetland. Right?
Yeah, so people.
Maybe we.
Okay, all right, yeah, but I'm giving that example of replication, so replication areas can be done in these figures. If you don't like the plan or feel there's questions about or issues about the replication proposal for, by the applicant, then you have the right to question that, that should deny it, but I think that what they're looking for now is, are we gonna waive the 5,000 square foot there? I'm not,
Well, you
Wait,
really
this-
you don't have to make that call if you don't want to, I mean, you can request more information if
Right.
you'd like, but that was just one of their concerns. I mean, those waivers that cost.
Why would we do that?
because we feel the plan of replication is advantageous to the two existing wetlands that are, it's only two, right? That would be filled.
I'm sorry?
How many wetlands areas are of that 18?
It's primarily one, it's almost exclusively one area. It's an area that was a remnant of the mining. Paul, your consultant actually questioned whether it even met the criteria. I felt it did, so I flagged it. But it's an area that developed as a, basically a remnant in the mining. It's poorly developed soils, it's poorly developed, plant community. And we propose to make something that's got a much stronger wetland hydrology tied to the existing BVW on the brook and of course double the size. So your standard in your bylaw says that you can waive a particular numerical criterion if in so doing it's protective of wetland interests. And I believe that this proposal does that. I feel quite comfortable that it does that. That wetland interests are enhanced by this proposal relative to the existing condition. Now, if we were proposing to, take a 18,000 square foot bite out of the existing well-developed BVW, then my position would not hold. It just wouldn't count.
So explain what your wine weight.
We have this 18,000 square foot,
Replication.
18,000 square foot isolated wetland
Okay,
that is marginal, I'll use that
I
word,
understand.
out in the pit. Your regs say that you can potentially allow up to 5,000 square foot of fill and replication, but to exceed the 5,000 square foot threshold, which this plan proposes, we need a waiver of that particular provision. The 5,000
And this
square
is
foot.
18,000.
Yes,
Plus 480.
yeah, in rough numbers.
So they're saying they'll make a better, larger,
No, I understand. In the WS project, we didn't have any waivers for reaching 5,000 feet, that I remember.
they created a number of replication areas, you're talking about.
That were quite large.
Yeah.
Maybe it was before.
And I have to go back and look, I know,
I think it was I don't know if you wrote a technical waiver, but you did waive that requirement because it was over five
So if
thousand.
we don't accept this waiver, he limits to 5,000.
You can limit it.
But if I understand right, what they're recommending is 18.
Bigger and better.
Bigger and better.
18,000 somewhere else is tied into an
Right.
existing wetland area.
But it's in addition, right? It's not a wetland zone. They're creating.
They're removing the
Yeah.
two isolated wetlands and creating the 2-to-1 ratio. Essentially, BBW.
Well, my personal opinion would be a larger singular wetland will produce better habitat than pocketed smaller ones.
And there has to, as Hannah question, just to clarify, the calculation for the border buffer zone, is the buffer zone around, there's a buffer zone also around this community represented area that has to be protected. Yeah, too, correct?
I mean, essentially, it will have buffer zones off of it now, so it, should be.
So that area should not be developed as well.
Okay, the question on the area you're choosing. What is it exist currently? Are you replicating from scratch or enhancing?
We're creating 37,000 square feet, rough numbers, of new wetlands which currently exist as upland.
Okay. It's, and how do we establish a performance criteria that we're confident with? That it will in fact perform as well?
There are criteria there in terms of establishing the hydrology.
It'll be in the
And then
conditions, I assume, for the maintenance period.
Yeah, and that's also some of what was kind of being addressed in PSC's peer review, is like making sure that the proposed plan will meet those goals.
The kind of standard bar yardstick is cover with native wetland vegetation. But there's, that's the kind of the primary milestone, but obviously achieving the hydrology, providing the right soils is what will get you that.
Who will be overseeing the construction?
I will.
Real time, periodically, or?
Well, primarily, the most important time is myself, or I have a couple soil scientists in my office. The critical part is getting the subgrade elevation right. Looking, digging down, that's why if you read my protocol, I'm emphatic that the grading shown on here is, generally speaking, what's proposed, but you really need to be on the ground to tweak that final grading before you bring in the topsoil. Because, we're confident that we have a pretty good handle on the hydrology there and the groundwater, but, not to a half a foot. And a half a foot is what you establish, excuse me, in the field. And basically, you're supervising the excavator. When that happens, you get that subgrade right, then you bring in the topsoil, then you bring in the plants, and the other features that are built into it. But that, and all of that needs to be supervised, starting and, really, in my view, most importantly, with that first step.
For Nicole in particular, Paul. Not sure last name.
Yeah.
No. Here with BSC group, there are peer reviewers which the applicants required to pay for their services. We develop a proposal, they develop a proposal rather, submitted. The applicant agrees to pay that, and then the money is dispersed by us to pay the peer review BSC group. We've used BSC for a number of years. And Paul, for not the other Paul, I was not here, well, I'll be asking him for his assessment. He did do a report, which you probably have limited access to see, of his original peer review letter, which came back in February. I mean, it's quite a while ago. So we've been looking at the site multiple times and so forth. But Paul, would you like to speak a little bit about what your counterpart in name and skills of the assessment has?
Sure. Yeah, so I initially went out to the site, my company's been going out here their sidewalk, and we looked at the areas that they're proposing to fill. They are remnant, excavation within a gravel pit area they're developing as wetlands, but now they're, as Paul mentioned, they're, I would say marginal in terms of 50-50 vegetation, which is wetland. So, in my opinion, they're a good candidate to, for this kind of application where you're gonna enhance the benefits of a wetland system that's adjacent to the area by expanding PDW. As Paul mentioned, the hydrology, achieving the right hydrology is critical. We want to nail that, and that drives success of the irrigation. Plants that are able to live, if it's too wet, plants will die, if it's too dry, you're getting more awful species. So again, we're going to discuss further, but there's going to be a little more detail that needs to be filled in from where the plants are going. So we can assess whether they will be successful given the predicted hydrology that you're going to get.
Paul, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Obviously, elevation is important for runoff control, or what the wetland entity.
Yeah.
What about materials, getting that base compaction to hold the water? How do you achieve that?
Well, looking at the system that they're tying into, it appears to be kind of the regional aquifer. I wouldn't call it a purge system. I think it's the groundwater that's indicative of the area that you're tying into. So I don't think, and all bets might be up when you start digging that way. I think the hope is that you're going to excavate down to a point where you're not going to drain the system by compromising or confining layer that's making it a wetland. You're going to tie into the groundwater.
So it'll continue to fill from
the ground
bottom up,
yeah.
Not stream in.
Correct. I think it's groundwater driven versus surface water driven.
I think it's gonna be amazing.
It'll be both. I mean, the intermittent stream that's there kind of drives that hydrology, but I think it's also connected. Plus.
Yeah, if I can add, we did this, we looked at this question because it's a fairly, in terms of replication areas, it's pretty substantial. So one of the things Paul and I were just looking at here is, he was saying, how did you measure the on the grading, what point did you start measuring the replication area? And that actually changes as you go from right to left on the plan, which is upstream to downstream. And so in terms of figuring out where we wanted that grading to be, we have two really useful things to look at. Number one is the existing wetland that runs along that whole length. We know where that boundary is. We know where those elevations are. And the other thing is we have a number of soil test pits looking at seasonal high water within that
Some
area.
additional research.
That was done in association with the stormwater management. So they dug test pits out there, I think mainly to determine, what the appropriate elevation would be for the stormwater retention basin that's nearby. Make sure they have that separation between groundwater and
So
stormwater.
test pit should give you existing groundwater
Yes.
level and drainage.
And that was, we did additional testing that was.
Got the results.
Yeah, I believe they're also in your packets as well. It's labeled as Form 11 and 12. It's a DEP form. But yes, I did witness them.
No major surprises from individual thought.
No, there were four test pits altogether, and they were all very consistent. They followed, basically the limits of not the bank, further away. The area where the replication area was going. So, and we witnessed groundwater, standing water, and also models, which is what you use to indicate where estimated seasonal high groundwater is. So they were all in line with the predictions. No surprises.
And the groundwater level right now is where we're in this weird, had a drought a year ago, but had a bunch of rain this summer.
Yeah, I'd say we're probably a little lower than normal, but the good thing with soils is it doesn't matter where the conditions are, in the season. They give you an indicator of where the seasonal high is based on the features that you see in that profile. So theoretically, you can do it in any season.
Indications being staining and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, whatever modeling features.
Additional questions about the replication area and those greater.
So, unless I'm misunderstanding, I'm of the opinion that it would be a negative to us to not issue the waiver.
Well, it would require the applicant to change the plans properly because, or yield the waiver decision because they were planning to use that area, I believe, for housing units to go in or something really close to that. So we suddenly said you can't fill that area. It's the 18,000 square feet that's currently existing. This area, they were not, marginal as referred to. Then yeah, that is something we could do, but it would not. I don't know if negatively affect us is the word. It would keep things status quo, which may not be as good in the long run for the site and for the environment in that area as doubling the area and moving it over to somewhere else and replicating it. And if it's a successful replication, then that.
Well, that's the key operator.
Right.
Is provisions if the replication fails.
And I think that first mentioned, listening to them talk about how the certification will be built and the quality of the area that will be filled in, it did give me some confidence that the replication area would be of value as compared to what I'm thinking. So I tend to agree.
Because the reality is, and this was the situation of the WS job, is if it does fail, what's our remedy? We've already allowed the existing wetland to be built over. And do we just keep pushing? Okay, do it again, do it again.
Bonus one says so everybody's going to get.
Sure. So there's a standard to assure success, and that is there's a 3-year post-construction monitoring period, whereby after that 3-year period, the wetland has to achieve at least 75% cover, and basically exhibit wetland conditions to be considered successful. And at that time, you can deny the certificate of compliance if you feel based on, how the area looks and what's there, whether or not it's successful. If it's not, you could think you would have leverage.
Does this have a bond on it for that?
You could reflect that, we don't have anything in place that haven't been approved, but there's no.
I think if it's denied, we don't do a bond because we denied it. I think in the past we have set bond amounts that are recommended by the peer reviewer and or someone else that are based on some previous experience.
I just have a question on this plan that Hannah provided for us, where it talks about the flood storage compensation and the loss, and then the second column, second row, this flood storage compensation box culvert column.
Yeah, so when you fill in the floodplain, there is a map floodplain here, has a certain elevation. When you put fill in the floodplain, you're required to not just fill X number of cubic feet, you have X number of cubic feet at each 1 foot increment that you fill. So for the lower part of that, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rob, but for the lower part of that, which is, right at the crossing, at the the toe of it. There's very little footprint, but you have several elevation increments. And part of that is actually being made up inside the box culvert. Because if you recall, there's a small, I don't know, 18, 24-inch pipe, I don't remember, that's there now. And we're proposing a big box culvert to comply with stream crossing standards. So there's a substantial amount of volume at those flood increments inside that actual box culvert. So
And you're correct for one, and the floodplain would do a one-to-one replacement, correct? For every foot you fill, you gotta
you're
create
required,
another foot of depth somewhere.
right,
else.
you're required to get at least 1-to-1 at each elevation increment. In this case, because we're doing the replication here, at the higher increments, we have, tons more storage provided, than is needed. But the replication area is not right at the stream elevation. So the replication area doesn't get that first foot. You follow?
It's not low enough.
I'm sorry?
It's not low.
It's not low enough to get that first foot, but you do capture that first foot inside the box.
Can we do one thing? Can we bring up the existing conditions drawing showing where the 5,000 feet is? And a second one showing where the proposed 18,000 feet will be on the
No.
site.
So it's 18,000 feet is the proposed filling area we filled in. But they're talking about floodplain, which is a different thing. So I want to make sure, you're still talking about the replication area question, correct?
Yes.
So you want to see the 18,000 feet that they're filling in and proposed, and they're gonna.
No, it's 5,000.
No, anything over 5,000, that's what we're waiting for. They're filling 18,000. Oh, 90 feet.
Okay.
And they're gonna do that
Go to 37.
and go to 37 at 2-to-1 ratio. So you want to see the 37 area, 1,000 square foot area, or you want to see 18, but there's no
Yep.
5. 5 is
That's
the limit.
a large.
Yeah.
I mean, an acre is only 43.
Right, that's,
So the third, if I may, the replication area is shown. If you look on the left, just to get you oriented, on the left-hand side of this image is the road coming up, which has the existing, that's the existing crossing, the existing pipe, and that rectangle through the middle is the big box culvert that is being proposed that we were just speaking about. So to the left,
And that to some degree exists already.
yes, that crossing,
We walked it.
that's correct. You walked over that crossing.
It's kind of fallen
It's
apart.
beat up, right, but, right, so the plan is to make use of that crossing to the extent feasible. It does require some widening for a modern road. So that's the proposed wetlands and the floodplain fill at that location. So to the right of that, you can see is the existing wetland. Above that, where you see all those very smooth gray lines proposed, that is the wetland replication area. That's, you can all, yeah, thank you, Hannah. Well, it's doing that.
It's too bad you can't make that mouse like green and bright.
So that's the 37,000 square foot roughly
Just the mouse itself.
replication.
So the replication is gonna go beside,
Correct.
but you're not, okay.
Yeah, and
It's not in another piece of the site.
yeah, and it's obviously not on this scale, but the proposed area that we're gonna fill is well off of this image up and to the right. It's, I'm gonna guess 200 yards away on that order, very rough numbers. Oh, it's out in the middle of the pit.
You're talking about the 18,000 square foot area you're calling,
The
or the,
proposed
so
18,000
you're
square.
not,
Is up there.
Yeah, way up there. There's a little bit of fill proposed, associated with widening that existing crossing.
Can we go to a full site plan for a moment and see that area? That's good. Right, stop right there. That one. Just zoom in on that page, this page here. Good. Go up.
no, I think they
Just
move that.
Move the one sheet up. All right, so you're filling in over here somewhere.
Correct. If you don't mind, I'll come up and see.
No. So just drag this page up a little, okay.
Bring us up again.
There it is.
Yeah, isolated wetland 16, and then there's a little one over here. I talked about it was 17,000 in the aggregate. That's real rough. And if you can slide the image
Slide it
up so we can see the replication area, or maybe reduce it a little bit. There you go. Okay, that's perfect. That's one.
And the replication is along here.
It's actually the shaded area. So this is, here's the existing wetland here. This is the existing crossing.
All right, so here's the stream.
This
That
is the
we've
stream, and this crosshatched area is the 37,000.
Upland currently is going to be converted to ordinary vegetated wetland.
That's correct.
So they're going
So
to
that,
replicate in that area where there's stuff there, there's
so
trees.
the
and stuff like that.
18,000 is here, proposed to be mitigated with creating 37 here.
And when you said going from scratch, Steve, I think I mentioned that there are areas that are like sand dunes still in that area.
No,
Like,
no,
but we're talking about removing trees and other vegetation, that's, to make sure the commission's on board and understand.
That,
It's a trade-off.
that area probably at some point in time over the years was partial flood zone, depending on here.
Along the stream there where it's gonna be.
Yes, from, I mean,
Oh, yeah, that's been wet. I mean,
This-
that's when it floods, that area.
it must work into that area at some point.
No, based according to the the FEMA
Testing.
flood zone, it's, if you recall, the wetland there is very incised. And the floodplain, based upon the FEMA mapping and their elevations and site topography, the floodplain didn't reach up into that area. It certainly would now, because we're dropping the grade.
Okay.
But it does not, mathematically, it does not under existing conditions. I've never seen any sign of any water flowing through there. You can see when there's a floodplain up in the woods. I've never seen any evidence of that. And the mapping indicates that it doesn't happen.
Additional questions, Commissioner members? Clarification, other information you think is outstanding that we would need to have or want to have, or you individually would like to have from the applicant or from the peer reviewer for additional consideration of this one. So I said we don't have to make a decision right this second, but we need to move along the process and make sure if we are ready to make a decision, we know exactly, and the applicant knows exactly what else is needed to be required in order for us.
I think I'd want to make sure that the replication area is at least 2 to 1.
It's a small amount enough, I think, 140, something like that.
And then there was an
Yeah,
additional.
we can tweak the plan a little bit. That's easy. Paul and I are actually just discussing a logical place to do that.
Okay.
That was,
And if you go to page 22, page 22 of 52.
That a chat with Mark?
There you go.
I just didn't want to interrupt.
No,
While you were talking.
good time.
I don't want to
Paul?
So Paul, this is all the existing, correct?
Yes.
And this is what we know.
that's
This is the
existing wetlands.
And this is what you know.
Correct. They really.
Those are the new houses that were built on Farm Road, right?
Yes, yes.
Those were recently constructed.
Alright.
Right after the village.
The ones that all the trees left behind.
Yeah, it's not these off the all the way up.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a context.
It might maybe go off the side. Okay, additional. Donna's request to make sure the numbers match and, that the, what was the other things that on, some of the problem?
No, I thought there were two, right? I thought you had referenced there were two numbers that needed to be put together.
480 square feet
Yes.
is bordering vegetated wetland altered, and the other is isolated vegetated wetland, or 18,000.
Yeah.
So the two added together, double, this
Double.
needs to come to 37,000 square feet. I'm sorry, needs to be more than 37,000 square feet is close, but it needs to be matching it to be a 2-to-1 ratio, so that that meets the bylaw requirement of 2-to-1. That we would strive for, even if it was 3,000 square feet, we need that to 6,000. But this, in this case, they are requesting a variance for waiver rather for over 5,000 square feet, which is 18 plus 480. So we're just trying to make sure again that the applicant knows if there's any other questions we have on this variance request or whether.
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Oh, the water,
Paul.
both
Home one or two.
falls. The sustained water surface pump between the existing intermittent stream and the proposed wetland, will that be the same?
There's,
Like, you stand on one edge and look across both? Because you're calling it a pond area.
well, see, that's, if you look, most of the replication area, the bottom contour is 225.
Yeah, I'm saying,
And then in the middle third, I'll call it, is actually proposed to be deeper than the thirds to the left and right. And this
okay.
was,
So then left and right's in the 230.
well, if you look at the bottom, if you look at the bottom contour, to the left, the bottom contour is 223, it wraps around the middle.
Yeah.
And then to the right, it's 224. If you want, I can show you here pretty quickly. And then, so over here, again, the stream goes this way, and that's where there's a 1 foot difference. So up here, this bottom contour is 225. So this whole area is proposed to be 225. And
And
then
what is this? 226? Right there.
right,
What are we out here? Right at the center of the stream, do we know?
well, 220, somewhere, well, there's 225.
Okay.
So there will be a little bit of a rise. And with respect to this area, this is an area that originally when we had proposed this, we had one big flat replication area. And it was actually the other Paul that had kind of just tossed out the idea, which I thought was a good one and bid on it, that why don't you create some heterogeneity, get some different habitat by making this a lower elevation. So this area will seasonally pond, because 221, you'll see, is a couple feet lower than this.
Yeah.
So this is going to be different, you know, and his comment, which again, I thought was.
So the left and right fringes should dry.
These, well, it will dry such, I mean, if you go out in this wetland right now, you can walk through this wetland in your sneakers and not get wet feet
We did.
today. But, so this and this would be the same as out here, but not this. This area will be ponded for, I'm not sure it'll be ponded for, you know, into July and August, but certainly into May, June. You know, it will be ponded and maybe even longer.
Is it your hope to become a vernal pool or remain full? Not full.
It might become a vernal pool. I don't want to promise that it's going to have that right hydrology. But it might very well be, but I don't wanna commit to that because I know where the seasonal high water is. I don't know. I don't know exactly to what degree and what the timing is for when it drops. So I don't wanna make too much of a promise in that regard. I would not be the least bit surprised if it had vernal pool hydrology and began to function as a vernal pool.
And there isn't one in that area now.
No, correct.
No, right now it's high and dry. Yeah,
Or
it's
vegetative wetlands.
sand and
Yeah.
Proposing.
pines out.
Okay.
Additional questions for that? Pam? Mary? Any other information that needs to be gathered for this particular waiver, consider it, or?
I make a motion to approve the waiver.
Do a second? Yeah, second, okay, any more discussion of this? There's a motion to approve waiver of zoning bylaws for any wetlands, wetland vegetation. Isolated vegetated wetlands, IDW alteration of more than 5,000 square feet. Which this is good. No discussion
Contingent upon the increase in size.
to match the 2-to-1 ratio.
Match the 2-to-1 ratio.
Is that, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of other like potential things around that, but the proven concept is doing that, right?
Right, and then as somebody else had mentioned earlier, is there going to be a bond on this for ensuring that the replication in 3 years has a financial repair, and money put aside for repairs or modifications if necessary to ensure it. And that question is something, what point in time do we usually set a bond?
I mean, that would be if we prove it and then not.
Right.
If I could speak on the bond issue, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Go ahead.
So when they bond the roadways, they will be required to bond the drainage basin and the replication area under the planning board. When they bond the roadways, they'll have an item for that.
You have a consideration in there for not just the roadways and drainage areas, but
Yeah, we actually, it's through the DPW, believe it or not, and planning department. We actually are just finished updating our bonding requirements to meet the most current Mass DOT bid prices,
and
so
does that include replication areas?
there is a wetland
Is
replication.
it based on square footage
It is
or
based on
certain
square
other
footage.
parameters? It doesn't matter whether it's isolated vegetated wetlands or border vegetated wetlands that it's replicating it, or it doesn't specify that much.
It's just specified through square footage.
Okay.
So-
So replication,
So those bonds usually, Rob, unless I'm mistaken, are more to satisfy the construction and acceptance, not maintain performance.
Well,
So the bond could be released once it's completed,
it's a little.
before we know it's working.
Not necessarily, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because the way that the bonding works in Bellingham, it's actually in our regulations that once the road is complete, we can release up to 80% of the bond. Now, 80%, that would require as-built, it would require inspections through the DPW, but the retainment of that 20%, I believe there's a 2-year window where we will keep that and then reevaluate. And then if for some reason there needs to be any adjustments, that's where that 20% of bonding comes into place. For your approval, though, the teeth is with the certificate of completion. That's where, I would stand with,
so technically the certificate of completion for the project, as a whole, or just the Conservation Commission's part of the project would be contingent on the 3 years, and then it's something different than the road, which sounds like 2 years.
Yeah, I think it would be, there would be 2 different tracks. It'd be the COC. And then the other thing too is, if there's wetland replication, if they have to request the bond reduction, we're not gonna reduce any bonding if there isn't any type of approval or check off from replication committee. If it's associated with the wetland replication, I mean, DPW and myself are not going to.
So the 2-year mark, they hit the roadways in good shape, the drainage basins are working okay, we haven't really seen any problems with the replication areas, but they're looking for an 80% reduction of the bond at that point in time at the 2-year mark. We would have another year of restoration we would want to ensure. How can we guarantee that the bond amount that DEP has set, which is given again to the DOT for replication, is that within that 20%?
Well-
Mr. Chairman, if I can speak on that again, I'm sorry. The applicant would be amenable to you providing a separate bond to the commission for a replication area, and you would hold that for 3 years.
Yeah, that's amenable to both the planning board and doesn't mess them up at all in their process and. the
Yeah, so
commission.
whatever that bond amount would be, we would work with the planning board to come up with that amount. And that would be secured, and you can put a condition in the order that bond would be proportioned for the wetland replication will remain in place until the 3-year period is up and the wetland replication area has been accepted by the commission. We would not look to release that.
The 3 year is up and performance is established.
Right, yeah, true.
Correct, correct, yep. And it's been certified and it's been, performance is certified by your consultant, Paul McManus, et cetera.
I'm
We would
having
let you
agreed.
hold that bond until that time frame. We would agree to that.
Conditions, have you had, sorry, for experience where with the SC as to the point where you could kind of compare the number that Rob could get for us, it sounds like through the DOT/DEP recommended, just to see if it seems like it's in par for the size of the project, because I don't know if the DEP's one is a great number.
Yeah,
A so-so number, a number that was made up out of sky, it's a state created number. I have a lot more confidence in somebody else who's got, I say, yeah, based on the size of this project, other projects we've seen have a bond similar for replication, again, for your replication, restoration, bond, just to put eyes on it. So, or the conditions when we set a bond amount, I want to make sure the bond amount is fair, comparable to other types of projects like this with 3-year retention. I've got no idea what that would be. So to be able to get that both from the DEP and then have it confirmed by our consultants, I think would be, and obviously the applicant.
No, that's gonna be high enough to be a motivator.
Well, not only motivated, but appropriate. Because if we approve, that's when we want the first order to be doing. So it's hard having to vote without question. Right, well, that question was asked by the commission member, so I want to make sure. Okay. Any other questions or comments about? Who did? No, this project, it was Bob's. No, so this,
Did we ever actually vote on the waiver?
we're about to do it right now, make sure there's no other questions,
I
right?
just had a first, a second, and then like 5 or 10.
Because somebody had asked on the commission a question about.
In good conversation.
Okay, all right, so hearing no other questions, I'll ask for voice vote, all in favor? Opposed? Waivers. All right, recognizing it is 8:30 and we have a couple of other items on the agenda.
You can smile.
He's frozen.
Does look, no, it says I'm bunching. Okay. Thanks. Knowing that the remaining 4 items on the agenda per se are, 2 cases being passed, not passed, sorry, continued. One of them, the last minute, doesn't show it on the agenda, and the other 2 being, I think, quite straightforward. I'm going to propose, first ask a question, people sitting in the room here. A show of hands if anybody is here for the Rentham Road well project. No, the High Street Access Road well project, well, he's the, for the town, he's working with. Yeah, he counts, I know he's here for that. I'm just seeing if the remaining people have been sitting very patiently are here for a particular project. I'd like to jump to that in respect of time that's been moving along and maybe put a hold and then come back to this rather lengthy and very extensive project and or touch base with the applicant and see if they have some other thoughts about it. 2 other questions real quickly. Is anyone here for 123 Mendon Street? I'm sure. And the MBT right away commuter rail, no one's here for that. Okay. Heard of crossing signs? Okay. I don't know anyone else is in the room, but you're welcome to stay as long as you like. I just covered the other 4 items on the agenda. just to see if there was any need to jump into the process. Good, here, I asked for that question, only one lady raised her hand, but I saw, and maybe others didn't want to raise their hands, whatever. If you're here for this prospect, you're great, that's what's taking the most time. I don't mind continuing, we're not gonna have any of the.
Did we want to go through any of these stuff?
Well, I'm just gonna
If you
ask-
Agree with that, and we want to send it over to the applicant for additional, and I don't know if we've gone through all of the, yes.
We haven't.
So that was.
We have-
With the waivers.
Well, that's.
We have waivers and we have BFC that we haven't gone.
Expecting. Oh, that's right. Yeah, done. Because you're too far off the site there, sorry. Are you amenable to hanging in there for a bit longer? Yeah. Okay. Since most of the people seem to be in the room for this project. Let me ask the applicant, Lou, can you hear me out? Can you hear us okay?
I'm here.
I see you. Thank you. So we've made some progress, as you probably have overheard, since you chimed in or put in. We had approved the first waiver of 3 requests. However, I'm not sure, given the length of time it's taken to go through those, that we're gonna get through the other 2 waiver requests. If there's an extensive discussion or question, we may. And then there is some additional information aside from those waivers that both the SC and the Ed have come up with that needs some additional information. What are your thoughts on this? Potentially being sent to another meeting to do that. We have to respond and either continue, or if you are going to close or something like that, want to close, then we'd have to do something different. So we'll make progress, but I just wanted to hear from you if you had any thoughts initially on.
Well, I'm not quite sure what additional information you're looking for, but quite frankly, I don't have any objections to continuing for one more meeting if the information that the commission is looking for is specific and not, not something that is illusory, let's say.
Let me just ask Anna what you've seen for us. I know.
I haven't sent it to
Right,
her, this
right.
was just me trying to
Pulling
get
it.
all the stuff and get like a summary of what's going on for you guys. And before sending it to Lou, making sure that stuff that I'm looking at makes sense to you, and it's stuff that you would like to see. I would want to request that from him without getting the okay from you guys.
Right, okay.
That
So
was kind of my thought, and then there were a couple things where it's like, it looked like the addition of a swale was something that, there was a couple issues that came up with that.
that was relatively last.
Alterations to the 25-foot over there and the 100-foot inner right here that were, just updated on those buffers, numbers, so that's something on my own.
You're talking about on Lake Street though, right? That the swale on Lake Street?
Swale off of Lake Street, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Or sending it off to an area that wasn't reviewed as far as the impacts to it per se, although, are you looking under stormwater swale?
Yeah, that was the swale and forebay were under review by the.
But, so we know it can handle some amount of water. Now, my question to handle is, it's gonna go to the other end of the swale, potentially at a 100-year storm or 50-year, whatever, I don't know the numbers because you guys are reviewing that stuff, but if it gets to that end and it's untreated, or wells or whatever else is coming over roadways, and there's no attempt to or ability to retreat it, it's gonna go into wetlands after a long stretch of swim.
Right. But, Mr.
So-
Chairman,
Sorry, go ahead, Lou.
I was gonna say, we can make we have plenty of room on that side, and we can make a basin as big as you want it over there if you want to have further treatment. We can have 2 separate basins, if that's what you're looking for. It's really not just a question of how much disturbance do you want to let us do in that area.
That's,
Or how much treatment is not gonna.
So with BSC, when they reviewed the current design, the one comment they had on the most recent peer review was just basically stating that the spill off that Lou is providing for Lake Street, which is good because it conveys water off of that area that usually ponds, will be going into a forebay to allow some pre-treatment and then into the swale. The issue is the forebay, it's been sized to accommodate on-site flows. So there's a certain criteria to size a forebay to make sure it meets the TSS treatment, and that's been sized for the proposed roadway on site that Lou is proposing for his townhouse development. So what BSC recommended, I agree with, is to either, if you have stormwater runoff, either don't go into the forebay because it would be undersized, or increase the forebay size to allow treatment. And I mean, I think it would make a lot more sense to increase the forebay size to just allow that runoff. You'll get treatment, which
It's a
they're currently.
priority device for oils though, right? This is just TSS.
Yeah, I mean, yes, correct.
So if it is taking roadway runoff, and oils and other contaminants, salt or whatever else is there too. And then if it ends up, I don't know, if there's long swale, it may all infiltrate before it gets to the far end, except for, huge flood.
It would be helpful. in
It
that
would be
case.
helpful. We usually try to require anything that's getting stuff right off of the road. To have some sort of storm scepter or something that can try to get some of the oils and stuff out of it before, along with the other solids and so forth. So that's what my question was to Hannah before. So knowing that you guys are still looking at that, that's some information that's already being worked on the engineering and planning board side. So we have more information, but whether they would ask for, well, you guys are able to ask for that kind of a device, correct?
Yeah, so the on-site treatment requires, when he's doing any proposed impervious surfaces, he needs to use specific BMPs associated with oil and gas and TSS treatments. So, for example, the catch basins on site are all deep sump and they're hooded, which the hoods is what allows oil and gas storage in those without going out into the wetlands. So I guess the critical thing here though is that it's not his on-site treatment. This is runoff from Lake Street, a town-owned public way. So any type of increase in treatment that Lou is willing to do is very helpful for us. I don't know if he would be willing to provide a proprietary structure. It would have to be in the right of way most likely as well, which I
If
don't
it's
know.
needed, I mean, if the storm drains on Lake Street are capturing the oils that come out Lake Street, that's one thing, and his roadway is captured same way, and you'll need that device. I'm not saying put it in because you should put it in, I'm saying if it's needed to protect the resource area at the far end, we should take that into account. If it's covered by the other stuff being going to be put in place, that's fine too, but you guys are reviewing that and then that's still in process?
Yeah, we ended up getting the peer review back. I don't think we were, or Rob Truex had responded to it. I know we're supposed to be meeting, I think, sometime in the near future to discuss some of the outlying items, which at the last planning board meeting, that was one of them, so.
All right.
And my main comment was more in regards just to, for instance, there's the stormwater impacts that are being reviewed are just like physical impact to the 25%. Those are
Around the swale?
Yeah.
Okay. And the swale was relatively less. When was the swale added, do you know, Paul?
I'm sorry?
When was the swale added? That was relatively, that was one of the last things that have come up in the changes that are happening to plans, correct?
Yeah, Rob, the question was, when did that swale get added?
Geez, I think it was a couple revisions ago. It's been on there for at least 2 revisions.
Okay.
So what we could do, just to talk about that a little bit on the treatment from Lake Street, we were just trying to direct the water into the sediment basin. But I mean, I could, at that point where we're doing a little spill off, we could put a catch basin right there and then just run a pipe from the back of it just into the forebay, and that would give you the hooded outlet. And then I have plenty of room to, increase that forebay to provide more treatment. I just did the exact same thing on another project in Holliston for the town. We had almost the same situation, and we wanted to get the 44% removal, so we added the catch basin at the inlet to the little forebay, and just ran like a 6-foot piece of pipe and dumped it into the forebay. So that gave us the 25% for the catch basin, the deep sump, and then the 25% for the forebay, so we were getting the 44% before it went out. Almost the same situation. And this forebay, it's oversized now for what we need, but I can still make it slightly bigger, or even it's big. I have plenty of room there to increase that to whatever we think is going in from Lake Street to help provide extra treatment. We have plenty of room there to do that.
Will the planning board have some thoughts on that number slash that they?
Yeah, I'll work with Rob on that too. Rob and I, this came from a meeting between Rob and I and Hannah. That's how, this whole Lake Street thing with the water coming down there and being a problem for the people in that area. So we're really trying to accommodate that and get something there that works and everybody's happy with.
Any improvements to Lake Street area would be helpful. Okay, so, Lou, just so you know, Hannah, very recently, like the day before yesterday, was working with me on, and primarily her lead on coming up with a summary for the commission members. We have one brand new commission member tonight that was just sworn in on Monday, to fill Neil Stanley's position, as he resigns / retired. And so, she's provided sort of an overview capturing the essential concerns and questions that we've expressed as commission members in the last couple of meetings that she's made of, or that she's observed, or in some of the planning meetings that are workshop meetings that you guys have had with her. And just got to the point where she wants to talk about some of that tonight, make sure we're on board with, we don't have any additional questions for you guys, and then send that to you and Paul to obviously review and be able to provide hopefully specifics, not general stuff, but just specific stuff that we need to help continue to wrap this up. So that's where we are with that when we're discussing some stuff earlier tonight. Members are, I think, amenable to continuing tonight somewhat, but it is getting on, and we do have 4 other hearings tonight. So I wanted to focus as tightly as possible on any remaining comments or questions that were in Hannah's minutes or note that she sent to the portal. If you all may have seen them and want to have, hey, can we get some more information from BSC or from Ecotech on this part of what Hannah or what was in Hannah's notes?
If I may, just try to keep it organized. We had some BSC comments, and he was only just beginning to go through some of it. I don't know if we want to give him a chance to finish that.
Well, there's a BSC component, and then some of what Hannah referred to had some BSC related comments.
Whatever's the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, I think, we've gone through like most of what I have, other than, some, like potential revisions in terms of like planting and that kind of thing, and the water resource district 4-foot minimum separation distance, which that one's been kind of an ongoing thing from the start, that we just mentioned every time, and it's also included in this planning peer review. But that was, those were, we kind of hit like the main things that were in here, other than like come to a status on those 2 other waivers.
Right, so.
But anything else I think we did.
You're recommending here finishing what Paul said and discuss the 2 waivers, if you want to continue to do that tonight or not?
Yeah, up to you, but yeah, I think.
This is
most of
Paul's,
it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what was written probably is gonna require a written response. Yeah. Conversation on them reacting to it live.
Right.
But as far as getting everything you can out of Paul and BSC, I think that. This is your question.
Yes, okay. Does anybody else have any other additional things that they want to ask for? Okay, Paul, why don't you finish taking us through as concisely as you can this remaining items on the outstanding.
Sure, I don't have my memo in front of me.
Oh, well.
Okay. So the 3 main issues that will remain that we were asked to get on to stream crossings, Peter River and Brook. So just beginning, I guess, with the low hanging fruit of the brook crossings. So Peters River, That's where the sewer main is crossing under. The question I had is, the detail that was provided in the plan, there's no dimension of the culvert that's there now. And what they're proposing to do is install two 12-inch flexible pipes, sandbag off the upstream end, and use those to convey the river flow, stream flow during the excavation to keep the excavation in the drive. Any dewatering will be pumped to a frac tank from the excavation. But because I don't have a dimension of that culvert, my question was, are two 12-inch pipes sufficient to convey that kind of flow, realizing that they're proposing to do it under low flow conditions?
But you get storm, so it's not helpful.
Yeah, and
No, lately,
the other
who
point
knows?
was, we have been getting, probably, 3-4 inch rainstorms pretty regularly. In that event, you have a contingency to control water. Are the pipes sufficient to convey even that flow, back up? So the questions focus on the constructability versus, what's gonna be there after.
And you say also the applicant should update the proposed resource area impacts, specifically the land under water based on the proposed.
Yeah, and that's really for the whole project. I think Ken is trying to do that, make sure the numbers add up, like your impact numbers are such, okay, what's your requirement, the applicant's requirement to mitigate those impacts? So you just looking at a table, impact table, mitigation table, you got the numbers match up.
So if I may just quickly, in terms of the construction of that, I mean, Rob looked at it, I actually looked at stream stats, looking at, kind of 80% low. And, we do say in terms of the protocol, it wouldn't be done, during precipitation forecast. We're just talking about, lightweight, flexible ADS pipes. The pipes could easily be, 24-inch pipes. And we probably should have said in the protocol, we expect that a pair of 12s is sufficient, but if it's not, we'll go to what's larger. Because certainly the contractor does not want to be working in there with, water flowing through. It's just not going to do it. So it's a matter of, doing it at the right time. And the right time involves looking at the forecast a little bit, and if there's thunderstorms coming through, potentially, then you just hold off. And you wait for, a week like we've had this week, to do it. And then in terms of the diversion, the method is laid out, the size of the pipe is, as I said, quite easily adjusted.
So you're flexible on the flexible pipe. If
Absolutely.
you need to last second copy in 24 inch, you just do it on the spot, just to
Absolutely.
cover yourself. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Directional drilling, you got it?
To get a drill rig in, way more impact. Yeah, I think we'd be weighing the temporary disturbance of the stream bed. This is. I don't think that.
The 20 feet long.
The stream bed is fairly narrow, if I remember. The
Yeah,
crossing point.
I mean, I could jump over it, so.
How long is the construction period? Start to finish, that's a good point.
Rob, do you know how long it would take to put the culvert in that location?
The actual culvert itself will probably be a day, but they'll do the prep work because they'll have to dig on either side of the box culvert, plate the road. They're gonna dig pits and box it up, and then they'll go horizontal drill from there. They may have to drill through the footings of the depending how deep the footing goes. So there could be some coring. But the actual culvert, once they get to that point and they're going underneath the brook, that could be as easy as a day.
So you project rediverted stream flow to be less than 5 days?
I do, yes.
Because I don't see it feasible to look
Yeah,
at
I
a
don't-
forecast.
They most of the work they'll do will be to get there. they'll start at the manhole near the existing pump station, and they'll bring that sewer pipe to the crossing. And they're gonna excavate on either side of this culvert, and they're gonna go down on both sides. And they have to expose both sides, and they'll end up plating the road overnight for probably, the plates will probably be there longer than a day, probably be there for a week or so. Because they'll have to expose that, and then they'll go underneath. So they'll have some work on either side of the culvert. But the actual culvert itself, running underneath, that will be a day.
Does say in comment 18 right below this, work at Peter River, applicant response, restoration plan will be provided along with the revised construction sequencing. That's in the BSC letter. Have you guys already provided the restoration plan?
For
I think there's a restoration plan for the, Peters River crossing.
That's
Effective by-
relating to public.
Oh,
That's
cool. Okay,
Comment 18 is, Howard Brook.
okay, it's
17 and.
the reference to South Brook, it was right below the Peters River sewer front,
Yes.
right?
Peters River was 17, and then we move on to 15, so that's.
Yeah.
It's a little, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm sorry, I'll ask that. Is that restoration plan been provided? Because we're looking to gather all of the remaining things that might have been asked for that Hannah hasn't yet gotten. Is that one of them, or is that been received? Or the restoration?
So, yeah, I mean, there's Paul had raised a question about what we proposed to put there in terms of bank stabilization. And, you know, we're proposing, it's not a very wide area, it's just, you know, big enough to get the pipe through. But we're proposing, it's a steep slope there. There used to be some sort of crossing, obviously, of some type. I'm not sure what it looked like, but, so we're proposing to put stone there because, as you know, that stream can be very flashy. And have some significant flows, goes down to nothing at times, but at other times it's pretty flashy. The fall was out there, it was just flowing pretty strong. Our plan is for that small section, to just armor that with stone, that will eventually fill in. But, you know, that's the most surefire way to get it stable, get the right geometry in there and have it stay.
Natural riverbed rock or riprap? Because it says shouldn't be armored with riprap, and then it should be included in using natural riverbed rock. Natural riverbed rock restoration.
On the bottom channel, we do propose to restore that in kind.
Okay.
But we're talking about, I'm referring to the side slope.
The side slope, okay.
But the bottom, yes, the bottom would be restored in kind.
Next. Has that, it did say that a restoration plan will be provided along with the rest of the construction sequencing. Has that been provided yet, or is that something else?
We did, I think that's covered in there.
Yeah, so that was kind of an earlier comment, but, so we did get, I was under the impression that it was gonna be riverbed rock and then restored with hand tools, and that there wasn't gonna be armoring of any of the slopes. That was, the detail kind of shows the bank armament, and then the post condition, I believe, didn't show any armaments on there. I'll pull up the thing.
Yeah, so what's there now are 2 stone abutments.
And some old crossing of
Yeah,
some
from the rail.
perhaps, yeah.
Probably a 10-foot wide face to face. What proposed is that they remove the abutments, do the crossing, install the pipe. The restoration would be, because our recommendation would be to try to match the banks that are there. Obviously, there's a bend in the stream that you can see on the plan, so armoring needs to be done in such a way that we can retain that bank.
Right.
But I think the desire would be to make sure it's kind of comparable to the banks up and downstream.
Oh, yeah, it has to blend.
Yeah.
It has to blend on upstream and downstream, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I think, I guess, it's like, kind of view that as implicit.
Yeah, but I guess my general comment is, and this kind of extends to a lot of things here, is I'd like to see things on the plan that the contractor is gonna see and the contractor is gonna do. The plans are really what the contractor is using to bid and to build.
And it's what we can hold people accountable to, their
Correct.
commitments.
So,
Less implicit, more explicit.
to the extent that we can show the detail or narrative.
All right, well, we'll look at that and see if we can be more explicit.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
what we have here. We can channel. At the completion of work. Channel contours, and then this is the detail that we have.
That's the geometry that Paul was just describing, vertical, going to. Two to one.
When it comes to contractors, I think the Concom's general view of the last planners I've been on is when out, spelled out, because then there's no confusion if one guy says, oh, I thought that they meant blah, 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 and he did it with good intent, and you come on site to check it out, it's like, this isn't what I meant, and, you know, why did you think of it? So, if the more spot, not to the point of.
Well, as I said, I'll see what we can do to be more explicit.
That's good. Good.
Yeah, and really the last comment, 36 from Pius was specific to the mitigation area. I think the applicant's done a good job, designing the mitigation area, based on the soil test beds, the grading, the site. It could achieve a successful level mitigation. What I don't have is detail on the planting. So what I've typically seen is your grading plan that kind of outlines the shape of predicted wetland range, based on the contour. And then maybe below that, or as a separate sheet, a planting plan with the same shape, showing where you're going to install these plants, whether it's trees, shrubs, or soil.
Yeah, see, I guess I'm gonna disagree with Paul here, because I've had the experience of having such a grading plan put together by surveyor engineer, and it's got, points, HB is a hyper blueberry, et cetera, et cetera. And what then happens when you go out in the field, and as I said, a lot of this needs to be supervised by someone who knows what they're doing and make the call as to what to put where. Because even within the plant list, there's certain things that like their feet wetter than others, and you want to cater that there. And as I said, with the subgrade, and therefore the final grade, that's going to be called in the field. So I have been in situations where I have wanted to go and make some field adjustments on the plantings, and having a contractor say, no, but it says this. It said, I have to do this. And I'm saying, no, but what I'm saying is a better idea, and this is why. So I guess I just have a basic disagreement in that, in terms of that level of specificity on something that I feel it's imperative that there be field discretion in making it happen. I will say that Paul had raised a question about the numbers and how we got to the numbers in the planting density, and I revisited that, and I do think that that based upon the ratios and the spacing that you referenced from the DEP replication manual, that those numbers, could and probably should be increased.
Might be understood.
So we agree on that one.
No, the part that I heard about the line it might have been underestimated for the size of the mitigation area for the number of plantings. It sounds like it's a reference to what you just said.
That's exactly what I was saying.
And I generally agree with what Paul is saying, because I encountered the same thing. Plan, you're gonna be measuring out, offsets to where those plantings need to be. That can be rectified by maybe a note to say, look, there could be field conditions or plant unavailability that may require adjustments or modifications to either plant species or the location where these are going based on the actual conditions that are achieved at the time of construction. Because
I agree with that, I run into that much.
now, that's a great note to give you and the contractor flexibility in Paul.
While still knowing that we're getting the amount of claims that we should be having, and so the conservation commission wants to see if.
I mean, obviously, the goal is to achieve success, you know, for
So real time in the planting process, as that's unfolding, you're still getting conditional feedback of what you're working with for materials, right? And you're wanting
When you
to,
say conditional feedback,
meaning feedback of the conditions
oh, yeah, on the ground.
as you're digging the holes and putting the
Correct.
plantings in, and you
Well,
want the
more-
flexibility to move.
more when you're gonna establish your subgrades or almost final grades by the time you're ready to plant.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're gonna achieve the conditions
Yeah.
that you want to plant in when you're ready to plant. So you're gonna have your hydrology. And again, he's showing an area of ponding area, which I would expect to have open water and emerging vegetation, and a shelf area with a shrub, a tree overstory with some emerging planting, seed mixes as well.
Water always does what you tell
And
it.
it does. So again, I think the commission should recognize that, the planting plan and the grading plan are what is desired to be achieved here. That there's gonna be adjustments just based on field conditions and construction. I would recommend that note be on the plan, right? That there needs to be recognition of this. And that, as Paul is saying, if he's committed to being there, that should be a condition of the order, that no plantings should be done unless under the direction of a wetland scientist who's there at the time of planting, overseeing the planting work.
Location and type species. So,
Yeah.
Hannah, do you have enough on that, what Paul just said, describe that flexibility term that could be put in order to do that, or you wanna,
Oh, yeah.
you could kind of get the wording right?
Yeah,
But the commission members agree with that in general, having that flexibility, but still within the parameters of the number of plants and species and so forth that are really recommended beyond that big. Basically, that's 7,000 square feet, that's a lot of cost. That's a lot of space to put stuff.
As long as it's being checked on too, like
Yeah.
there has to be checks and balances with that.
Yeah, again, that could be an easy condition of the order, that there would be, there's critical phases of the front, right? The sewer line installation across Holy Brook and Peter River, and, the construction of the mitigation area prior to the start of the crossings, prior to certain critical phases of the mitigation area construction, that you'd be notified, when that's gonna occur, and you're certainly out there. And it gives you, the chance to inspect the area before it's done, make sure things are agreed upon and go.
And for the record, I think that's all reasonable.
Additional questions about this? For Paul, about that particular item, the planting? As he put in his report previously. Anything else you want to cover, Paul, for the BSC report there?
No, I think.
Anything else that you've got most everything you said, all the big points, were there any smaller points where you need feedback from the commission members? Or is it strictly getting info from Paul? And,
yeah, I mean, that was the majority of it. The only other kind of outline thing that I had some time on was we had talked about a planting plan between those two drainage basins, adjacent to the application area. I don't know if that was something like, not like, but that could also be something that.
how far did you get to the point of in the last discussion?
Yeah.
Did we talk about it on the commission side or just in the pre-planning?
In the.
Or the workshop? So, detention basins.
No, this was the most.
Most of it, yeah.
That's just a little smaller.
Enhance the,
Commission members who have seen the info from Hannah that she just recently sent out.
It was mostly like, I don't know if you guys can official.
Right, so that's what I'm asking now, is did anybody have any, from everything you've heard so far, short of the 2 variance requests we still have to review, anything else from the BSC report or from Hannah's comments that you want more information from, specific information from Lou and Paul and something comes up in thoughts, let us know, but, all right. We have mine out here, 2 more variants requests. Want me to take the next one, Hannah? Take the reading.
Identify and locating, how the trees are.
Okay.
Say it again, I didn't hear.
The identifying trees over 10-inch caliper.
And this is a bylaw, a local bylaw, Nicole, that we have.
This, but I don't think there was.
It is waivable requested by applicants from time to time, and the commission can decide if they want to approve that waiver or not. It's pretty much a yes or no to the waiver. It's not like, okay, we'll go down to 8-inch or. That's usually. So you agree with it? Oh, you make motions tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, no more discussion, okay. So we have motion and the second to deny the waiver for identifying and to mark identifying, locating trees of 10 California or larger in areas.
But the variant maintains the bylaw.
Upholds the bylaw, current bylaw. Yes, and it's just to be clear, it's only in areas that we have jurisdiction of the entire site. But I do not know the number of acres even of site that would be within our jurisdiction that we need to review. So it hasn't been quantified to my knowledge. Have you seen something quantified yet? From the applicant, like how big an area are they talking about? How many acres of the whole, how big is the whole site?
Mr. Chairman,
How big is the whole site? Will?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, you're asking for locating 10-inch trees in all your areas of jurisdiction. You have every detention basin is within 100 feet of your resource areas. You got the replication area. You're asking for an enormous expense for locating trees. We've had this discussion before. Trees that we're knocking down, we're taking the trees out. So I don't understand the mentality of this condition or even this requirement in your bylaw regulations. It's just ridiculous.
Well, we talked about it before, and we have thoughts. I don't.
As we discussed it, one of the commission members, Pam, was just mentioning, we discussed this during the Blackstone Street project for the 2 house lots, because that came up as a specific point. The reasoning for putting in the bylaws 15 years ago, specifically, in my recollection, was so long ago I was on that commission review process. I think it was to help identify the impacts, which has been mentioned by at least 1 or 2 commission members for the Blackstone Street project, get a sense of how much of an impact these large trees, which do have an environmental component to them, which is recognized by us. And
I still don't understand. What do you accomplish by identifying them? I mean, you're gonna count all the trees and then do what? We're gonna replace them? I don't understand the philosophy here.
well, he's asking for a much larger scale project to review, so he's obviously not going to want to.
But our
You're talking about acres and acres of land that you want us to locate trees over 10 inches in diameter. That's unreasonable.
I mean, is there a replacement? Is that where, like, town of Newton has like, X amount of trees
What?
over replaced with X amount of inches?
I'm trying to
We
remember.
have certain regulations that, like, how many trees are supposed to replace, and how many trees.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mr. Chairman, wouldn't it be better for us to just contribute a certain amount of money just to do plantings rather than waste the money, having an engineer go out there and locate all these trees that we're knocking down? Why don't we just agree on a number of financial arrangement where we can either donate to your street tree fund or some other avenue to replace trees. I mean, this is ridiculous. You're wasting money.
You have to make exceptions for everybody else.
I'm trying to find the section in the bylaws here where we mentioned, because I'm not sure.
I
number
think it's
one,
page 33.
Let's say he comes up, that there's 5,000 trees coming out. Let's work with that as the answer for a minute. What do we do with that? And 5,000 could be the real number.
It's not the number, the fact that they're marked on the plan
For-
for the future. So if someone in the future, a future property owner, HOA, whoever ends up maintaining this, trims a tree in our jurisdiction, we have a plan of record showing there was a tree there at some point and it was removed without a permit.
The trees, the trees in Cali are only within the footprint. So anything that gets tallied in this way, if the project gets approved, would be gone. So you're not gonna have a tally for what's
The
left.
bylaw only request stuff within the footprint or within our jurisdiction on.
I think it's within our
Well,
jurisdiction.
it doesn't, it's not clear, but we've interpreted it.
There's a lot of area of buffer zone that's not necessarily within the footprint of the road.
Oh, there's a huge, most of the buffer zone. That's, my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, my understanding was that it was a tally of trees proposed to be removed. But I don't have it in front of me, so, yeah. But,
Because I mean, well, the bylaw, from my understanding, is in the plan spec section of the bylaw, so it's asking an applicant to mark it on the plan where these size trees are. It's not just a list of them, or a tally of how many there are on the site, it's on the plan of record.
right, but then that would be, I mean, there's huge, up in the north part of the site. I mean, there's a huge area up there where there's nothing proposed. I'd be suggesting that every tree within all of that buffer zone, I mean, there's probably a couple thousand feet
Well,
of
they're not being
BBW
removed.
boundary.
Right, they're not being
They're not being
removed.
removed, you wouldn't need a tally.
There's no work anywhere near them.
So that way we can have a replacement value, like what species are we losing? Like we're losing like a certain amount of like red maple, like that should probably be replaced somewhere to compensate for the ecosystem. That makes sense. That's why it's important to understand what kind of trees we're losing, how big they're losing, so we can kind of replace them.
So we don't have a replication.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do.
We do. So for,
Replacement guys.
and those greater than 10 inch or greater is discretion of the commission to which equivalent. It doesn't say how many trees to put in, but below that, there's 3 categories of replacement. 2 to 3.5 inch diameter base, DBH trees, you do 1 to 1, and you do 2 inch to 3.5. So you're trying to match them, the small ones. 3.5 to 6 inch, you do 2 replacements for each one, but you put in 2 inch to 3.5. So you're putting in smaller. They recognize you can't easily put in 3.5 to 6 inch trees. And then 6 to 10 inch, you do a 3 to 1 replacement, again, 2 inch to 3.5 inch. But again, above the big ones, it's discretion of the commission to reach some sort of equivalent.
And
So-
the problem I see with that, with a site like
Yeah.
this, is that the site, that area of the site that's being disturbed is now not an open space. Planting area that's not already forested.
Right, and they allow for the fact that in the bylaw that you may not be able to replicate because you can't in the woods, like we discussed on Blackstone Street for those 2 house lots that Mr. Petrosi put in for, that they wasn't any place else on that site, those house lots, to put another tree because they're just heavily wooded everywhere else on the site.
Well, at the town of Newton, they'll do it, so if you can't fit those trees on your property, you can donate them. So they are
What
somewhere on
I
their
think
transfer.
Lou is,
list
in
of
at least in
trees.
financial terms, proposing to do is that public trees that are taken out on the streets or something like that, create a fund. That would be a new thing, Lou, just so you know, it's never been done to my knowledge in town, not,
Get that value.
Well, I think you should think about it because it really is mind-boggling that you would ask us to go out there and not just identify the trees, locate the trees, put them on a plan, and then know that you're not going to, or cutting them down, and then spend all of that money for what? when we're willing to just give you the money and you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, so Lou, the answer to your question, whether you want to hear it or not, is that without knowing some number of trees, that again, are only going to be taken down, not trees that are not going to be taken down. Of this large size, for example, 10-inch or larger, which is simplifying it because there's many trees that will be taken down on site that are smaller, that do have in the bylaws, they're right there for your reference, what the replication is supposed to be. They're only proposing it on site. So to start with, you don't have an idea how many trees. You're proposing a dollar amount that the commission agreed to for planting elsewhere in the town, which is,
Well, it could be on site too. It doesn't have to be in the town. It's just a question of what is the best use of the money?
well, the money is a requirement on the applicant. It's to determine that, whether it's an engineer, an arborist, or somebody who's qualified to do that, without knowing the number of trees that are in that file, to consider whether a dollar amount is assignable to them to put in elsewhere, because you're not gonna put in 10-inch trees. You don't plant 10-inch trees, and certainly not in any quantity.
The other thing is, Mr. Chairman, is the trees, the quality of the trees that are out there are not what you would call, you know, your scenic trees that you would want in your front yard or somebody else's backyard. They're pines, they're scraggly, scrubby pines that grew up over a second growth of a gravel extraction site. You're not talking a value here. You're talking about trees that are falling down every day on that site, every day.
All right, so, all right, we hear what you're saying, Lou. I understand your frustration. My suggestion is if Paul's copy, or you don't already, I think you probably do. Do you have a copy of the bylaws in town, town bylaws?
Got them memorized, got them memorized.
I suggest not now, but at some point in time in the near future, between now and the next hearing, take a look at page 31 out of 46 and 32 and 33. And that's the part talking about vegetation removal replacement. It gives the reasons that the commission has chosen to put this bylaw in place, this section, a particular bylaw in place about tree removal. What our values are. You're talking about straggling pines and so forth, but anyway.
247-23.
247-23, thank you.
Very familiar with it. Thank you.
That gives the rationale why we want to do it, which you may or may not agree with, but it's in the bylaw. As far as coming from the county. Yeah, sure.
Is there anywhere on site, if we were to entertain an idea like this, where you think plantings of whatever species we is feasible? Or anywhere that's not current, not to be disturbed, is just too thickly forested that it's not.
There, I have to look at the plan and think about it, but it's possible that there's someplace out, you know, kind of fringes out of the pit that are not being developed.
That might support the trees.
Yeah, I mean, so your point is, you know, any place where we're not trying to put a tree in, plant a tree in the middle of woods.
Yeah,
Or swamp, or.
something that's gonna have its own space.
Right, space to
To
grow.
actually grow.
All I can say is maybe, I don't know, I have to look at it.
There isn't one valuable tree on that entire site, not one.
All trees are valuable.
Okay, again, that's your right to have that opinion, and as I said, if you want to know why, because you've asked this several times tonight, why do you want to do this? Why do we have to do this? That's stated in the bylaws as to what the value is that we and the commission and the town has agreed to this, because they approved these bylaws.
Oh, this is a regulation, Mr. Chairman, not a bylaw. This is a regulation that the Conservation Commission adopted on its own. It had nothing to do with the rest of the town. The bylaw is what was voted at town meeting, not the regulations.
All right, well, the regulations that we enforce and support and the town has approved in a town vote years ago are referenced on those pages, and that's where we're coming from. And the commission wants. So, without being able to assign a value to the tree, or a number to the tree by doing an account, what is the commission's vote on this? We have a motion to deny the waiver request from Pam, seconded by Ariane. have discussion about this. I'm not sure if any more discussion is needed. I think standing where they individually standing on this, I will ask for a favor of the denial of this waiver. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One no and 5 yeses. So the motion, the waiver is denied on that particular one. The third waiver is, Hannah? Button fill volumes, a little more specifically.
We just talked about this last meeting.
Yeah, but we want to make a motion on the waiver request. What was the waiver specifically for? I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you're busy making notes. Give you a minute.
On the town bylaw form, it's the amount of fill proposed for removal from site, amount of fill proposed for use on site, waiver of the control. That was.
So they're waiving providing any information. I thought it was something about the volumes for. Yeah.
And I think Steve had mentioned something about, you know, them running, Stephen on.
Taking land,
And then.
material out.
Mentioned something
material
about,
within.
they weren't. The word germane was thrown around a lot in terms of.
You know,
it was
and you guys
germane to
remember
the
last time
project.
we discussed this?
And then there was no conclusion.
No what?
There was no conclusion
Service.
reached on whether they would like that
Service.
information or.
I'm trying to remember the
Wait,
top.
that requirement.
How do you go along? So they want to waive providing information on how much they've gotten the open site and how much they've built. You and Ariane has comments about the last meeting.
I would like to deny this one.
Well, I want to make sure that Steve is trying to remember the conversation that the members were all clear on.
Well, even if I don't remember it, it's a mathematical function that should be easily obtained. And you gotta do it to buy the materials either for replacement or to pay someone to take them when you remove them. So it's a value that, quite frankly, I'm grossly confused why you don't have it anyway.
So Paul or Rob, can you guys answer that, or Lou? Why you want to have this waiver and not provide that, what seems to be us to be basic information that is often provided on projects like this?
What is the waiver request? I didn't hear it.
Fill volumes are being requested to not be supplied for us for the site.
Phil, are you related to Phil?
And fill, removal of stuff and filling of stuff. You're requesting a waiver to not provide that information on the form.
Are you referring to the entire site or just the area that's within your jurisdiction?
Whatever's easier for you.
What's on the plan, on the form is that requesting for the whole site?
From the site that I am assuming for bylaws that it would be within our jurisdiction.
So we think based on the bylaws and regulations that it's within our jurisdictional areas on the site, not the entire site. Any idea why you guys would want to not provide that information? We don't know.
It's a calculation that has to be done by the engineers. It's just another one of those unnecessary calculations, I guess.
Information in the
What,
projects.
I mean, we're not removing material off the site. What do you, I mean, we won't know whether or not we're removing material off the site until the project is substantially complete.
But you have
What?
existing and proposed grades. They're different. Filling or cutting there. What do you take out?
You know, I'm saying taking it off doesn't matter.
Well, moving it around on the site has to be approved if you're filling in areas, obviously, or raising floodplain levels, as Paul's talking about, so. But that's usually a set of numbers, again, that on previous projects, I believe we had supplied to us without any question, so we're just puzzled as to why that wasn't just filled in at the time you guys.
Lou, how are your civil contractors bidding the job if they haven't figured out how much earth they're moving?
Well, we send it out an estimate. When the plan is approved, we send it out for an estimate and they'll tell us. We don't do it during the permitting process. We do it when we're out to bid. We send it out, we get an estimate, cuts and fills, road wash, huh?
Figure it in the bidding, not when the job is near completion, as you said a moment before.
Right, but we'd have a calculation, but we wouldn't know exactly what we were removing from the site until we had completed all of our infrastructure and foundations are in the ground, because there are always areas where you need material. Let's say, for example, loom. We need loom. So there are areas on the site that have no loom, none. We have to bring it in. There are stockpiles in the site that have loom stockpiles from years ago. So we may have to cut those down it's just not something that is just cut and dry the way you're making it sound like.
I mean, can you just do it based on what's proposed? Like, I understand that things pop up similar to the plantings, you know, where it's like, oh, okay, you might have to move them X, Y, and Z, but like, based on the numbers proposed for the existing grades and changing grades, there should be some number that we can work with. Even if it's not the final number, it should be some number.
Already done.
I'll tell you, what we can do is we can provide a number to the commission for cuts and fills as a condition prior to commencing construction. I mean, you're asking, we don't even have an approval here, and we're trying to, pile on here with stuff that we need to do. Be a lot different if there was an approval with a condition than it is to say, go do it, and then we'll let you know whether or not we're gonna approve the project or not.
Hold on a second. So the NOI form has a space on it for pet control.
The town bylaw form has a
town
rating
bylaw,
section
right.
that says amount of fill proposed,
And that
and
form
then
was,
cubic yard, amount of fill proposed for use on site, cubic yard.
Can you put that on the screen
and
here?
that has been completed by Ecotech. Paul, did you guys fill that form in?
No, they requested the waiver on.
Not the entire form, just those lines, I think.
Right.
Yeah, just for that.
So,
information.
so is the rest of, my question is the rest of that form been completed? And if so, when?
The rest of the form.
That was in response to my request for updated buffer zone effort. They updated this form. The original form was provided at the start of this whole project. And then there's been significant changes made. They updated it. And
So on the final version of the plan, which is the last updated of this form, I assume it reflects the current scope of the work, the final version that you guys are going with, the number of road, houses and so forth. That if this form was updated at that point in time, that's the point in time when I think we see this form filled out by other applicants for other projects with numbers put in there. So the form's quickly, this is the only section of this form filling rating, I think you're asking for waiver from. Or providing that information, and what Lou is saying is because he doesn't have those numbers right now, and so the major calculation, that's gonna be a guesstimate. Anyway, my point would be if we're just seeing this number appear from other applicants on the same form during the application process, not at the construction, not at the bidding stage, but at this point in time when they're applying, they're coming up with some estimates which, for better or worse, are some numbers that they were able to calculate. And I believe that this section has never been requested to recently, to my knowledge, been requested as a variance to waive.
I do have your own analysis of what.
So, you've heard what the applicant was saying as far as why he's not running at this time. You know they're requesting this variance on this particular form. The question is, do you want to require that they do that? In which case you would deny the variance. I think we understand what's being denied, and I hope the commission does, for what the variance request is. And the applicant's rationale has been explained, and you guys will ask questions or make comments about it at this point in time. So you're fairly up to speed on what's going on. Anybody else unclear about?
Is there a section of the bylaw that specifically requires cut, or is it just that they said no, thank you on the form?
that, there's also.
They said no, thank you on the form. In my eyes,
Okay,
It's just another thing on the form. It's less, in my eyes, a request for a waiver. It's more of, it's an incomplete application.
And, all right, but.
There's requirements when you're in a water resource district. And they, within 4 feet of historical high groundwater.
That was,
That was,
Like, that means that information.
oh, determine cut fills. So, again, any other questions, clarifications for this?
Are we willing to accept proposed amounts now with amended as-built quantities post-completion?
Yeah, I mean, we're asking for as accurate information they can provide. We don't want them to make one totally on the air, but we don't have any way of verifying that number anyways.
These two values give us what is this information useful for in what we do?
These guys, right?
These,
Yeah, again,
yeah, the two values,
I'll do that.
what he's taking off site and what he's bringing in.
It's irrelevant.
I suggest proposed amounts based on calculations. I still don't understand why it's so difficult, but with amended values, I understand the separation. We don't ask them to identify the different materials,
I know.
just the total.
Existing. As well.
Rob, before we vote, I just wanted to ask one question for you, and from an engineering calculation point of view, is opening up a CAD file and placing the total line, going to give us some numbers that you could fill in on that form for cut and fill. That would be approximations at this time.
No, I can calculate anything. I mean, it's just, so the only areas we're talking about is really where the wetland crossing is, and you want to know what the cut is for the replication area, how much we're taking out of there?
Well,
In the
the whole,
area, not the entire site, but in areas that we have jurisdiction.
Right, so it would just be the buffer zones from the wetlands and in the wetlands.
Yeah, right, resource areas, replication areas, crossings, yeah, areas that we are jurisdiction on. If you can provide approximation numbers for cut and fill at this time, and then knowing down, as Louis said, down the road, you get to bidding process, you're refining numbers, you get to a construction process, you're refining numbers, you would end up with change at some point in time, we would expect between the on paper and initially, but gives us a sense of the scope to okay, this was what was actually done. It might be larger, smaller for either one, but that's down the road. No one expects you to get it to within the square yard at this point in time when the project is got things that could happen and change the scope. We of course, or we require a change or something. So
Yeah, we can provide that. I can do a takeoff on cuts and fills in the buffer in your jurisdictional areas.
So Commissioner members approve that
Motion to deny.
well, we have to need, oh, no, so, okay, so you first, you second? Okay. The motion and the second to deny the request for a waiver for the cut and fill on the Bellingham, Bellingham, how's the one phrase now? Well, it's not, it's more than just. I'm sorry. Well, I just want to get the wording right for the motion. I don't want to have a motion where it's for the blank form that we then have to fill in blank after that. If we have it.
I guess that you would deny the waiver, requesting information for, they'll propose for removal from the site and then they'll propose for use
On the,
in the jurisdiction area, in the, bylaw.
application form. Application form, thank you. In the Bellingham bylaw application form, I know there's some term we want to make sure we use. Okay, so you've heard the motion. This raised. Steve is first, or second, any other discussion? Questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Okay, so it's unanimous. So sounds like it's a no on the second, at the third and final variance that we have of this request tonight. If you can provide that information, Rob, then that resolves that particular issue.
Okay,
And we now have a request to continue this hearing because we did get no. Cover the variances. There was some, yes, Hannah still has some additional questions, and I believe,
That was just, I will send it over, because you agreed that I did a fine job.
okay, but you need to get that information back, and we need to confirm that you got
Yeah,
everything
and that
back.
was, and also the whole depicting where those buffer zones are, you know.
Yeah, right, that was before Lou got on, so, Rob, you can fill Lou in on the, I don't wanna go over all that, rehash that again. We have requested some additional specific information from, Rob's report on the square footage that's being impacted with, by literally just putting it, in which he said he can do fairly quickly on the set of plans, so we can visually make a sense of these large numbers that are being replicated. It's just
yeah.
putting.
I'll give you like, I'll probably give you like a key sheet and highlight each area and what the square footage is.
Right, that's fine, something to reference, so that was,
That's
Okay,
easy enough.
yeah, so there was a couple of other items that Hannah's looking to get specifically from Paul. I think she will relay that to him, Lou, just so that you know, tomorrow or the next day, and, I think that at that point in time, if we get that information back in, if we put this on the agenda for the next meeting, we've received all that information, there's no other questions about it, then I think we would be prepared to close the meeting at that point in time unless something else comes up. That sound okay with you? Putting up one more meeting and then potentially closing?
Yep.
Lou?
Oh, sure, I was dozing off there a little bit. I was starting to think about all my trees.
Okay, somebody alarm up, hang on. Okay, so I needed to get your sign off on this because it's just beyond the 21 days if we continue.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Let's continue it till 2026. No, let's continue it to next meeting, August 13th, right?
Yes, August 13th. You available? Good.
Oh, I think so. I only have 3 hearings that night. But
Okay.
I'm gonna make
Yeah.
a special occasion to come to you guys first.
For which meeting you need to bring the cake and the champagne to?
Oh,
Okay.
my God. If you only knew, if you only knew.
To continue this hearing to the evening of August 13th at 7 p.m. Yeah, would you like to make a second?
I'll second.
All right, there we go. On board, Nicole, second. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Any other discussion about continuing this to 13th? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, Lou, 13th for that. Thank you, Paul. And Paul.
Thank you,
Okay,
thank you
thank
for
you.
everything. Bye-bye.
Are you gonna send out something?
Yes, I will send you the memo that I sent them. I mostly wanted to clarify with them about what they wanted me to send you before sending it.
But you are gonna send.
Yes, I will send that to you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
That was helpful, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Hannah.
Wait a minute, you say?
I heard it say.
Say that again, and it's hopefully I can get back to you after it's like a- I have a chief, yeah, so we can get from like 8 or 9 hours. Well, you can get from within a couple of hours.
This poor guy is still awake.
Yeah. Look at these early at 9 too. So we haven't lost it all the other people, so we know where they were all.
This 111?
Yeah, I recognize.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, he was following up with, yeah, this is the one, just update.
Yeah.
And I'll try to give people a chance to.
I looked at it on screen. Is this 111?
Yes. I also made a mention.
This isn't the one that we toured.
No.
Yeah, this is the other one that I couldn't get to.
At least touch base on today, because we.
I'm interested. I drove through
Get some sort of response.
This would have been.
Like, come back in for a meeting. Whatever.
I drove down Rensselaer Road, only with them. Where did this go in? Where the existing?
It's just east of the housing authority.
On that side?
On the south side, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There are 3 wellheads, and there are
And there's wells across the street too.
Yeah, well, I thought it was gonna be off of the wells across the street.
No, the three wells by the pumping station are gonna be basically moved in closer to, away from the resource area by a few feet for each of the three, and we done there. And
No.
So it's moving in, their areas already cleared around there, they don't have to have major impact at all. Without that, the other site, number 10, I walked out with Hannah on Tuesday.
Yeah, but walking with him was very helpful.
Oh, no,
James, because we could really kind of see exactly where you were proposing and why.
yeah, although if that well gets put in and they have to put in a more permanent road, it's gonna be more impact to that area, so. But as Hannah and I talked about when we were walking, and I don't know if you guys did, but it's a Barney property, so we have not, we did quite the same level of. We are going to, I wanna make sure everybody's back in their seats, not to break over. A little adrenaline shot in the background, and Nicole, Steve said something as you walked out of the room, and you guys have to share some of it.
It's fairly productive meeting.
Although we spent a lot of time on a very complicated, very big project that going on for a long period of time, which not always.
That's why I brought his coffee with me.
Yeah.
My bedtime's not.
Some of these, like this one here you're about to hear, will go much more quickly, I promise that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so,
Wait, introduce yourself to the newest member.
Hi.
And he's working on behalf of the town to,
right, so this is the,
So do we open
Notice
this?
of
Is this
intent
officially
provision.
open?
sorry,
oh,
I knew you wanted me to do something else, Don, just nudge me again, like James.
I'm
was
sorry, I
busy.
just-
James just said that, but I was like, yeah, we're gonna talk about it, but then.
James passed the ball, I caught it, I'm trying to hand it off.
Sometimes that's what you want.
Yes, we did. open it.
Okay,
That's
so
what
I will read the official hearing. New hearing, the notice for the 10.
Oh, Lord.
NOI, Rentham Road, well, number 11, map 95, parcel 270J. Alteration of boarding land subject to flooding and buffer zone work on well 11, including well replacements and improvements to infrastructure. And then do well. Bellingham DPW is the applicant and Charles Caron.
so we filed a notice of intent for the well 11 site, which is on the south side of Rentham Road. Just to go through this overview plain quick, Rentham Road is up here. Housing authority,
Rentham Manor
is right here, there's a driveway that comes in, actually continues to a house. It branches off and comes into the existing well site where there's a existing well building and then a series of 5 wells, not all of which are in use.
What's the problem with them?
With that,
Why are they being replaced?
well, any of these, my understanding, I'm not a hydrogeologist, but my understanding would be, especially with the gravel packed wells, eventually they put them down into the gravel, usually pretty good sized diameter, and there's different types of screening that go in to keep the sand and gravel from flowing into it. So over time, that screening material degrades. Sometimes they can replace that. Eventually they can't even do that. I think the iron, manganese, and other minerals can start cementing the soil material right around the wells, so the flow rate starts to drop. And eventually you're gonna put another one in. So in this case, we need 3 replacement wells, just a few feet away from the existing wells. Given the ages of piping and things are running new pipe back from the wells to the well house, as well as running new electrical and control wire. And
All in previously disturbed areas.
this is all, we're not disturbing any new areas. This site is,
The existing casings are gonna be abandoned.
they're being abandoned, they'll be cut off at the ground level, the well will fill with up a few feet and then
Do we know the casing material?
permeable material, soil material.
What is the existing material, casing material?
Well, with the gravel pack, well. These are on these questions. Is usually it's a metal screening. That's in there, and then there's. A pipe sticking up above that, basic half
Are
pipe,
you gonna fill it and leave it?
right? Yep, but the above ground pack's all getting cut off, so we're. Getting rid of that. This site is entirely. In the flood zone. Which we, and. Everything's in, would be in the buffer zone, but since it's in the flood zone, it's actually just technically. Resource area, not buffer zone. We're proposing. This is for water all the way around it, and if the most. The trickiest part regulatory wise in this is. On all these projects now, they're putting the generators.
Yeah, you have to elevate it up.
Above the 100-year flood zone. I'm doing a bunch of pump stations right now. Sewer systems, and they're all putting new generators in elevated above the flood zone. So the flood elevation here is 190. So the generator and the propane tank for the generator going on pads, they're going to be raised about a foot of fill below 190 flood elevation. So we have some loss of flood storage as a result of this. It's about 800 cubic feet, so about 30 yards. So, you know, a dump truck lower than half of the refuge.
Are they boxed in? Are they like, just generator just on a platform, or
It's actually, it's gonna be a concrete pad that
Yeah.
is up about.
yeah, and then a generator exposed on it, not like a well, the old well houses.
No,
What are the current wells? What's gonna happen with their generators?
I don't,
Will they be removed? Because that might just be the.
I don't think there is a generator here now. Okay, basically, we got the demolition plan, they're taking out the old piping and decommissioning those wells, but there's no generator. So, as far as I know, there isn't. So we generally, if you have to fill into the flood zone, you gotta compensate for it. In this case, no practical way to do that. We have basically way to the south over here of the site, there's a route, you have to go across a wide wetland to get to it. The only other place that is right here, we've got this. It just gets to the 190 elevation. Which is nice pine forest. The only way we could compensate would be to clear a significant part of that to drop the ground that much, which seems senseless to me.
Yeah.
You know, and if this, in a normal project, you'd have to do that, but this does qualify as a limited project of a water supply, which allows the commission to basically waive any performance standards it can't practically be complied with.
When that area floods, does it go into the golf course on the other side?
I don't,
Or does
I
it
think
just
it goes
move there?
across Rentham Road over to, I can't remember that book.
Don't you just have to certify that they're not raising the elevation more than like, like the flood elevation more than what we're not raising elevation? So that was like an alternative to, or to invest for storage.
I couldn't remember.
That would be pliable.
There you go.
I thought it was like an alternative where if you couldn't provide condense storage in the floodplain, you could do the elevation certificate certifying that you're not raising the floodplain in an area more than a foot.
Just, I don't think there's anything in the act. Well, again, it's a limited project, that all can get. No, I will. And just is it possible to consider the volume of square footage, inches, or whatever, of the 3 wells that are being dug, which is excavating, equal to the size of the pad?
Except they'd be filled with water, but they're not really providing any addition.
Okay. All right, well, it is, as you said, a limited scope project. The impacts overall, I mean, they're coming in away from the wetlands, a couple of feet in a clear area, grassy area, all 3 areas that we walk, they're sort of disturbed. It's grassy mowed, maintained areas, so they get to wellheads and so forth. They're coming away from the wetlands, a small distance, but away from it, and they're not gonna be digging up or disturbing anything with the actual well, I think, when they drill it down. So I consider that site to be fairly straightforward. However, around the back of the building where they're putting the new, generator, on the path, that's a very tight radius right now. We had a car, or somebody come in the steel control while we were walking side through there. And I commented already, just walking down the building, there's some very large trees right behind the building with the driveway. It's not too wide, it circles the whole little building, so the trucks can go and drive around. I don't know if they're gonna propose to do away with that, but if they're coming out from the back of the building, they're gonna be getting to the point where it's gonna be some consideration, maybe for those. No, they just happen to drive a truck around behind there, so I know that other people use that little loop around the building while we were there. He was coming, I don't know, he was walking off.
They're doing some testing for.
Eastern Equine.
They're not spraying.
No, these guys just walking around. He was holding his bare arms out, saying, "Come on, land, I'm gonna pick your mosquitoes up," whatever, I don't know. Anyway, bottom line is, the concern I have was that they make sure that they evaluate the distance for those trees, because if they're proposing to take trees down on the spot kind of thing, they shouldn't let them do that. Those are huge trees, and
No, there's no clearing proposed.
right, but I'm just putting a tank and a pad behind there when it's the driveway run right behind the building. But they may have to just make it a no more loop around, maybe.
I think, well, there's the paved turnaround driveway there. Right?
Yeah, well, it's a
There's
little.
no proposal to keep driving on.
Okay.
This one's new.
So we can-
Yeah.
This is 1211. This is the most
No, I know, I
recent
thought
one.
this is the one I thought this came in like a few weeks ago.
Oh,
they came in for like a
yeah, probably was.
I think it was like July
2 weeks ago,
3rd.
2.5
2
weeks,
weeks
but
ago.
yeah, still no DEP numbers. Have been running
No, I know.
for-
I checked, they haven't issued the DEP file for filing in town. Oh.
So should we plan to continue this to a month?
Well, it gives you all a chance to go down there if you
Without the
want to.
Yeah,
see it.
that's what-
I'll be sharing with Hannah with transmitting some pictures that I took of the area, because some something, wanted to come back to, and I think this one's pretty much slammed up, just simplicity. But the other one, I did also take a lot of pictures, but when you're saying on a hillslope looking down, it's hard to get perspective. That one may be worth a trip in at some point in time for those of you who haven't. Is either one, under pressure by DPW or DEP or anything that would move us along, that us waiting for this one or the other one, that they have to do something within?
I'm aware of, I know they were in a real hurry for this. I don't know.
Yeah, but we gotta wait for DEP.
Right, right, we can't, not that we're looking to.
Well, no,
approve
the
this,
question is 2 weeks versus.
should we continue for 2 weeks and then see what happens, and if they hit the DEP number, then we let it go, or say, let's see.
Yeah, I think Ariane was saying, should we continue it to August 13th, thinking the DEP will eventually have a number by then, or continue it to August 27th, assuming that they probably won't have.
I would say we should go to, I'm gonna be on vacation, but I should be able to get somebody from Princeton. I'd say we're
Oh,
gonna.
from the 27th?
No, let's do the 13th, so we keep it.
Yeah, if they, DEP gets ambitious and gets the done great.
To continue to August 13th?
Second.
Oh, wait, I can tell, one was in one ear, one in the other. I hear a little
What's
slower than
wrong
you,
there?
so maybe, we'll let him
There you
pick
go.
that one.
It was good.
All right, so we have motion and second, any other discussion of this particular motion? Hearing none, saying no, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay. Second one. No
Different address though, what's going on? Foxborough, Mass versus Westminster. He's
Oh.
on the agenda.
I screwed that one.
Oh, all right, I thought I was, I said, oh, which happy you
I
get
know.
We didn't tell you.
Sorry.
You got transferred, we didn't gonna tell you, but hope it's better with this other location. Okay, so I know you want to stay here till 10:30, but let me get reading this. Continue hearing for notice of intent for High Street access. Ladies, please. High Street access, Road Well to number 10, map 41, map 41, lot 3, and map 45, lot 56. Maintenance of a 1,750 foot of a existing access and the construction of a 560 foot extension. Large diameter test well, it's by extension road. Large diameter test well and a prolonged pump test within the 100-foot buffer zone and riverfront. Bellingham DPW is the applicant and the representatives Charles somewhere. Wherever Foxborough and Westminster.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think we went through the plan in detail of the last meeting with you, and then we scheduled the site walk, I think, for the 12th, which
Correct. You have
two
two
members
members
were
waiting.
able to attend.
Has anybody else gone up in Hannah on Tuesday once? Did anybody else get a chance to go out on their own in the last week or so? Okay. So a number of members haven't had a chance to see this, but go ahead.
So, you know, we continued, we give you guys a chance to get out there. We also, talking, we did have an EP final, which we've now gotten, I expected some comments from them, but their only comment that I saw go to. They didn't like my idea of doing an amendment, if this becomes permanent, doing an amendment, but after they wanted, saying, we should require a whole new file. I think that's their knee-jerk reaction, because they don't get a filing fee when you don't amend it.
And I think they also, they, I don't know, they put out a couple notices recently about a lot of projects requesting to have like minor amendment stuff, but then saying that that was not policy, so they just kind of put out a notice being like, hey, this is, you're supposed to, you can't do a lot of these things as an amendment, so you have to.
I think-
Well, we'll see what they want, they're required, they're
But-
required. Okay.
So I think you would just have to ignore my idea of doing an amendment. If this becomes permanent, we'll have to file a new notice of intent, and then I would say to avoid having to do the, you know, my whole purpose of that idea was so if this becomes permanent, we don't want to have to restore this, to close this out, and then have a new filing that would then undo what we restored. So I think the solution to that is if this becomes permanent, we file a notice of intent, and then when you go to issue, same time you issue the order of conditions, you issue a certificate of compliance for this filing, knowing that restoration is no longer. Now that you have an approved order.
We have to assume we can't assume that will happen in order, so you're also stating, I think you just did, that we would have an order of condition for require restoration for this particular NOI. Because if it doesn't get approved, well, it can't happen. So, I'll just say, you know, this is a site that we're accessing the C3, 4, 5, up to about the 6. We've got town property.
Right about the,
Yeah, and up to those 3, 4, 5 are town, another person, private property owner, Barney, who doesn't own a lot of the town, I own a lot of town, stand with a lot of projects that involve Barney properties. We've got an easement permission to re-access this main store, clean it up, open it up. Final paperwork is still being signed off. Was that the other DEP thing that they needed? Or was that us saying that we didn't get the money?
We need a signature.
I thought we had.
So Barney needs to approve that.
Okay, they do, I mean,
Yeah, we haven't gotten anything from, because we had
Okay.
that agreement that states, yeah,
Right.
you can do this, but it can include.
no, we had that, I think I assumed Jesse had CC you and I, but maybe he just sent it to me, so I don't get that. No, we
So
do
we
have
have
that.
that's all. We've had the site C6 property that's bigger than just the C6 rectangle there for many years, decades, in fact, as a possible well location for the town they've owned. This town-owned property, we now want to explore putting the well in there. So we're putting the road in there, they're gonna do a big test on it. If it passes, then they have to do the DEP, say, these are the test results, you approve it for a well,
if the DEP approves it, then they'd be looking to put a pump station, well, all that in.
Yeah, we need the pump station, we have to run water line.
And you'd have to run
Stormwater.
And you'd have to re-access it by a more permanent road. As you see, if you walk it, it's basically a footpath for most of that area, so about the C6 area. And then there's some areas where, it's winding a little bit, we probably allow a truck through, but other areas where you have to clear a few trees. And then you take the C6 turn and you go that way, and then suddenly you're in major ridges with lots of very big trees along them. And as James pointed out, we really need to try to make an effort to, especially if the well doesn't pan out. We cut all those trees down, put a temporary, pump a temporary well location that it may not pan out, would be a real shame and a pretty big hit to that environment. And that is the town property, so open space. So we want to probably approach that road section, the final section, the 560 feet approximately.
The problem is if we start winding around trying to avoid bigger trees, you're increasing the amount of.
Well, between the ridges and
this is something that bugs me. And I do wetlands, I'm also a licensed forester. And if you ask me what I am, I'd say I'm a forest ecologist, which is it. And I think we have lost sight of not seeing the forest for the trees. Everyone's focused on the individual trees and not that forest ecosystem. You can lose a lot of trees and you still have a forest that's functioning as a forest. And even with, where we have to cut through here, when we cut some trees down, you're gonna have small gaps in the canopy, which are gonna quickly close over to have post canopy within just a few years again. We're proposing a restoration and planting that, so it's all coming right there. The forest, plus you're gonna get lots of natural reestablishment in addition to the restoration activity. So I don't think there's a big hit to, if this doesn't stay there, I don't think it's a significant impact.
well, the other topography, trees aside, topography there is, as you turn that corner and you go with that 560 feet, a lot of very steep up and down ridges basically there, and we qualify as rounded hills or on both sides of which is a lower area at the bottom of the hill is either the riverfront or ponds and potential high quality necessary rest ponds and other areas, and then looking at them and on so just cutting through those ridges alone would be impacting. So you're very close to both sides.
Right. I also want to point out though, that uneven terrain is piles and cuts from the past gravel.
Some of it, yes.
We're not like we're going through natural ridges.
Oh,
It's all piles of stones, overburden.
But to go through them and not impact two areas on either sides, which are at least one area is riverfront, the other area is again ponded or wetlands-ish looking areas.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's going to be tricky. I mean, those.
No, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think it can. Because like for example, they designed this section of the road. I can detail it here, so that we're on the side of the ridge away from the river. Right. So we have grading there, but the grading is all directed away from the river rather than having potential erosion towards the river.
Right,
So,
and that area that's in dark colors right there,
right here.
that is defined as a what area?
Yeah. Yes.
No, I'm asking,
Yes
but-
and no, I don't think it's jurisdictional. Since DPW is exempt from the bylaw, and it's an isolated wetland,
Of good size. I mean, it's.
but it's there. It also dries out because the main part road that kind of branched off here, went onto the Army Corps, and you can see it on the aerial photos, the road that goes right through that. It dries
Is
out
that Cliff Road?
all the time. What's that?
Cliff?
No, just a cart road, a call road from the new gravel.
Right off behind the
Just trying to figure out where the location is, like, is there anything on that?
Do you know where that is?
And-
No.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, originally, we delineated these because they're potentially federal wetlands. They've now come up, nobody knows what a federal wetland is. Isolated wetlands now do not seem to have
any federal jurisdiction anymore.
But these are also.
What's that? Right.
These are flood zones, so.
The flood zone doesn't come into this instance. No. Basically, it's right along the toe of this. That
It
steep
comes
slope.
to the-
What's that?
Looking at a different plan.
Beyond.
Oh, it comes up over here,
It encompasses those.
It's right-
isolated
right through
wetlands.
here. From here in that direction.
She's saying it encompasses what she's looking at is a different plan than you have there.
FEMA map.
She's looking at a FEMA map, so.
That's
That's
probably
that's the
the-
new ones that haven't. Updated them this year, and yeah, they haven't been, they're not.
Are they the ones that show on our GIS?
No, probably, well, maybe,
Because I don't think they would make the GIS files for it if they haven't approved it yet. So
that's what they do, because it goes out to public comment.
Well, we can check it out and easy enough to see. I mean, we're not making.
There's fairly high ground all the way.
Yeah.
There's kind of a bridge through most of it. I think it's connected.
I heard only the word determination.
You could do a flood elevation survey and get a letter of map change from FEMA. That's not gonna be much work.
Joe, do you have anything else you want to present tonight?
No, I.
There was one other, so we talked about the amendment comment
Right,
that they
yeah.
had, the other comment that CDP had that I put in there, just because of stuff. And put in the portal was, NOI form states there is 1,740 square feet of BLSF alteration, while the narrative states there will be no alteration to BLSF. Please clarify and correct NOI form is necessary. Requires compensatory storage. Compensatory storage shall be provided in accordance with 310 DMR.
Well, we have, right through here, we have this section we're going, the
Yeah.
flood zone comes up into that,
Right.
that wetland. So that's what this, we have that area of, for fixing up that all road going through it. That's where the square footage comes from, but there's no change in grade proposed. So there's no flood no impact to flood storage and no need for compensation.
That's where the gravel road kind of that we
Right.
walked is.
That spot, one spot where.
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it
yeah.
goes down
Oh, that's
to
not
that wetland.
No, it's always sat there for a few minutes and talked. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Branches, like, those come over.
Oh, yeah.
It was right next to it was right near the area that took picture of Belshare, which is tires, which are Bellingham obligated species for wetlands.
That makes it a vernal
And they-
pool.
but
Yeah,
it's
they-
all- They haul themselves right, but anyway, there were some piles. And one of them had a tree that was probably this big diameter growing up through the middle of the tire, so you already been there for.
Probably
Um,
20, 30 years.
yeah, so anyway, so yeah, that's the earlier part of it.
To access this, I couldn't make the walkthrough. Is it you go off the backside of the High Street fields?
No,
No, we're not going that way. It's down the road.
go down to 50, on the other side of the street, Steve, there was some houses in 55 or was it 55?
Yeah,
I think it was
it's like-
55 High Street. Go across the street from that and there is a pile of brush.
I have a pink
And there's also
flag.
a flag there.
Put a flag there.
Yeah, there's a pink flag. There was one or two points where it split off with these other bike traveler and Hannah and I were, well, I don't see a marker. It was like, we kept going the way we thought it was and sure enough, eventually down the road, we saw another big marker eventually. And then once we took the turn, it was almost like a narrow plane. So, yeah. Once you get on the trail. There's
We
pile of
have-
brush.
The original thought was to go through that we have an easement that was created in about 1970 to go along the edge of the Conservation Commission land to get back to
The
the
ball field area.
But I don't know what anyone was thinking, laying out a 20-foot wide easement with bends. And then they didn't worry about it back then, but that means 2 wetland crossings to get there. And because you can't stay in that 20 feet with all the work, it gets us into all the conflicts with the open space law So after we had a preliminary design on that, and saw how bad it was, explored this option with Brian. Yeah, this looks bad until you look at what the option is and looks much better. I mean, there are some bells and stuff in C3 and C4, and even to C5, but not until you turn and go on to 10 property, you really start getting the ridges, and the rest of it, I can see very easily being with minimal impacts and gravel and stuff, like hanging two small trees and some dead stuff, being accessible, maintained, reopened up again, so to speak. So the biggest chunk of that is probably a good idea to do it that way. Similar motion.
All right, so
Anyway,
what do you
what
want
else?
from us?
That's, we have Twitter VP now. Oh, no, you got we have one number. Some members have not had a chance to see the site. I can share some pictures again, for the next day or so, but I just, if anybody else in the commission want to see the site. Walk the site. And if so, would you like to have somebody accompany you, who knows where they're going, that gives you more.
I'll probably go nose around down there. There's a flag on the side of the road.
There's a flag at the side of the road.
I think it's across from 59 High Street.
You're not gonna go to post.
Yeah, it's 55 or 59, you just can see it.
And there's also a big pile of brush just inside there with pallets and stuff in it, so you know it's not a full imagine anything, just cross over that, follow the path that you'll see out of it.
Bridge over to the
flood
shelter.
zone, because apparently those maps were approved on July 6th.
Okay, so we want to update the floodplain maps to be reflective of the current July 8th approved maps that are available on the town of Bellingham GIS website, or FEMA's website. So just to reflect back.
Since we filed.
Yeah, did you file before July 8th?
Yeah.
Oh,
Technically,
Well, I think, it's still zone AE, so it's not gonna follow the outline of the flood zone as it's depicted in the older map, in the elevation, whatever elevation zone AE was, which in the new one is 208.8 or something like that. They might be around the same number in the previous one, and they just have to do more.
I think that would matter if we were expecting them to do events to request it.
we don't have any fill.
Not for this NOI, maybe for the temp, maybe for the permanent one, yeah, that's a whole. other line.
Yeah, that's a whole different, yeah, for this, there's no fill. Okay, when we come down into this area, we have cut.
You're doing a fancy test well. That's what this
It's
is.
expensive.
Right.
Okay, so while we may not need that information to make a decision tonight, it would be helpful to come to the next NOI to know that those.
Yeah.
Floodplain regulations may apply. Anything else for tonight that we need for information to make a decision to have a motion made to either approve or continue this hearing?
I think the only condition that we talked about on site was, I think we mentioned the tree bylaw, which you heard a lot about tonight. Obviously not being a town project, not having the public group, that I think we had come up with the compromise of knowing that someone's gonna bring a drill rig out there, gonna start hacking trees down. If you can mark out the trees, those larger caliber trees on the edge of the disturbance level, so that the contractor that's out there doesn't expand his footprint by his own decision. I think that's
There's some big beautiful trees that, yeah. I mean, he doesn't have to go around a lot of them, but some of them, it's right here, let's just cut it down, and it's like, you know, this much.
I don't know, I look at it, I'd like to say, cut it all down, and get rid of all these unviable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
just on the way
provide
it's
stumps
all-
under there and get it back to something natural.
Yeah.
That isn't.
There's no, I don't know if you guys know, there's no under. All the. No. I mean, it's.
3,
It's
4, 5.
forested space.
3, 4, see it, 3, 4, 5. When you get to 6, you take a turn, there's some big trees that have been there in the piles of whatever.
Well, you know what, what's interesting is that points out when
trees that were in full conditions off Aspect Road, because this was a gravel pit. 50 years ago. So there's pines growing on some of those rock piles that are missing.
Yeah, white pine.
They're only
really
50 or
fast.
60 years old.
Yeah, they don't have a long lifespan though.
Yep, there was one, two that are dead, I think that's one, and Hannah got to the point where we're about to go down to see where the wellheads were down there, that's, whatever, that they were proposing and doing, into a B zone. It's like, okay, we'll need a beeline back out there, because I don't know where they were coming from, but there was plenty of them, so we didn't go down into the low drop there. I guess decent, because you can see it pretty clearly, it's all open.
Was it still wet?
A little bit, let's put it right, I don't know, I didn't throw a rock down and see the splash, but the grass was nice and green, and looked like it probably, if it wasn't wet recently, it was get.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you went there like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We had some rain since, okay, anything else? We ready to make the decision, vote, have a motion made by somebody? Well, if you need more information, you might continue, if you don't need to continue, we have the DB number, we have the volume number, we can do it by one read. No, we don't need that, because that's right, it's a.
Well, I do just want to make sure, I still don't have a signature.
Oh, yes,
So
right,
we can have that.
So,
we can make it approval contingent on getting signature,
I
contingent,
mean, we can,
if you
I
want to.
just, last time we did that, paperwork wise is not great.
You have it on your phone right now.
Well, if he can find it.
He can get it on his phone.
That sounds like easier. Especially if we only need to do it for one. This project is probably a longer term.
There's a lot of work that's required for this one, like grading.
They might have to line up crews, still get bids for pricing to go down and do the road work. I don't know where they are at the town.
Bet you can't get in there with a small rig, without having to do all that cutting.
You should have it in a second.
Okay, assuming Hannah gets that. Someone's make at least a small motion, move to make a motion.
I would move to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions with a single condition. That was over here. The condition? Oh, the condition of marking out the trees on the edge of the limit of disturbance.
Or saving that.
I think what we talked about was if the contractor really had a problem, we have to have.
Yeah.
Look at it and make
Yeah.
sure she agreed with it.
Oh, you're right, I forgot about that flexibility.
Or Nicole.
Or Nicole, who's next.
Yeah.
And she may be available, may not, we don't.
A member from the Conservation
You are a busy
Commission.
lady, so we don't know how you're gonna be able to put all this in, but as best you can, great.
You'd be surprised.
But be aware that this is a primarily volunteer group, and as such, you've been very appointed. If you will run into conflicts in your personal life or job life that takes precedence, please let us know, don't hopefully assume that you're always available. Okay, so with the flexibility of having that.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd
Second, I don't have a second.
No, there was a second.
Steve seconds.
Steve said
Yeah, I didn't know, sorry. So second, Steve. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Second, yes? All right, so assuming the tree things go through, you're good to go. Jonathan, we'll pass the word to Jesse and company and let them know. Okay, I will. You need to go.
With the conditions.
If anybody wants to go and put one out, feel free.
Motion to accept June 25th meeting.
Seconded.
Anybody have any changes, corrections? No? You haven't seen anything. Very good. We have a motion second. Any discussion? Thank you. Very much. All in favor? Yes, okay. We do need to just continue two others real quickly here. I'm going to read real fast. Continue hearing notice intent 129 Street commercial redevelopment within Riverfront, 100-foot buffer zone with UVW, East Development Enterprises, the applicant and with nothing as the representative. And that's a continuation because they're still trying to square away things with the planning board. I guess I'm hoping they're making progress. But
So, second.
discussion now. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's move to the evening of August 2nd. August 13th, okay. Okay, the second item here, so continue meeting
RDA, MBTA commuter rail right away, and review a 5-year vegetation management plan, the PD along the MBTA commuter rail right away in Bellingham to eliminate control management, vegetation along the right away. Pascal Director is the applicant, and Matt Donovan, is the representative. They requested a continuation to August 13th as well. Hopefully, I think they didn't have a rep that could come tonight. So, any other discussion now? Okay, here I am. First or second. Motion has been made to continue the meeting. Second by Don. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I was gonna try to talk about it for 20 minutes, but.
We were hoping that at least. Charles Crossing sign request in the portal. Hannah provided information about Charles sign crossing.
Well done. I like this.
Did you all like the suggestion of seasonally putting them up and down?
Yeah, I think that was great.
Yeah.
At a smaller cost with a smaller sign that we could maybe do more locations around town. My suggestion was the DPW will probably put those signposts in for free, that we could just unscrew a sign from.
Well, that would be for a big sign. The little ones are they're like,
Well, you can make the little ones position any sign you want, depending on one of these sign companies and make them a little bigger if you want for a different price, whatever. But
Well,
you're,
yeah, but that would be, the ones that I was looking at.
or like for yard sale signs.
Yes.
I mean, in my experience, those don't last.
Well, you had
See, I
said 3
did, I
years,
did.
right?
Somebody's had,
It's just somebody from Mass, because I drive by these signs all the time that Mass, or not Mass, from Alabama. And they have a very, I mean, they did the copy of their sign. But I've been seeing them, like, I saw them last year, I was seeing them this year, so I actually messaged somebody from there, and I was like, hey, like, how well do these hold up? Like, any thoughts? Like, you're not expected to reply. They replied back within like 15 minutes, being like, oh, here you go, here's the website. They've held up for like 3 years. Sometimes people steal them, so that's the primary potential
That's
issue with
probably
it.
why they look so
But-
new when you want to.
Yeah, but actually, they have gotten.
Yeah.
I think we should have Concom mascot turtle suit. We all wear on a revolving basis.
That's great.
here to wear the
Bro,
Yeah.
I'll volunteer to wear it the first time because I don't want to see anybody, I don't have my head inside one of those mascot heads after somebody else has. We can continue to review this and form a subcommittee if somebody is so willing to come out of the show and do so.
Get it? No pun intended.
Oh, his puns are intended. Oh, it feels.
So, but I think we have some good starts here. Give it to you. Thank you, Hannah, for pursuing that. Whether we decide to, my suggestion along the sign posting was not to have the big 30 by 30 street, highway sign. But if the town puts in permanent posts like you have for a street sign saying Roberta Lane or something, just a simple amount of these, they just drive into the ground and not put concrete in there or anything else like that. People stone around the hole that they dig for. It's in there, it says perfect. You bolt something on or off of it, you can get a signs made out of whatever material, whatever size of it. Even if it's a smallish sign, to put it on and off this more permanent post means just like if somebody will drive by and take it away. You also elevate it a little higher off the ground to get it more visible for drivers. So,
Patients that were.
without, I mean, this person that came and asked me for this had 2 house lots that she recommended. But, yeah, that was a resident who had
I
to
thought
get out.
this was like, I thought this was like a pet project for us. to, like,
No, pet project to tourists, the good.
Taking a bunch of turtles on the street and they.
We don't have to wrap right this project, we take it towards their, pace, if you want. Okay.
lost your mind.
Yeah. Mass environmental board bill discussion, so. Ann was on the call, I came in.
Mention first, but I think,
Pond, Silver Lake Pond, we had a Boy Scout, put in a request 2 meetings ago, we skipped our last meeting, we skipped over it, didn't even discuss it, I wanted to do some response to the scouts, so that we can ask him to even come in for them, or he just wondered if it was a good idea for this kind of a project. He wants to help restore the island that was formerly on Silver Lake, which is the town, Conservation Commission owns Silver Lake, it's been really tough. The DPW maintains the pond, beach and so forth. And we pay to treat that pond for refiltration, weed control, each year. That was wanting to improve trails and so forth, and there used to be a big entertainment complex, town hall or dance hall, whatever, that burned down decades ago. And that the lake tends to be pretty eutrophied and filled in, but vegetation, but it sounds like a worthwhile project.
belonging to me off the surface. For the
It
commission.
needs just to be cleaned up. I've been on that island a bunch of times.
Yes.
Yeah,
How do you
it's
get out
cool.
there?
Get like canoe or.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Used to be have a bridge, but they took it down.
Oh, yeah.
Are we gonna see some sort of write-up or
Well,
narrative?
he just sent an initial email to him.
Yeah.
It's right behind you.
And he also, when I was telling him about like, oh, you know, like, they seemed interested, I'll ask some more questions, like, here's some things you should maybe be thinking about. I was also gonna say, oh yeah, and maybe, right, something else you could think about is we've been trying to do these baseline documentation surveys for all the Concom properties, like, maybe you should do one for this. I went back in our files, and he already did one for this.
The same guy?
No, he did this last year, so
Okay.
there's clearly some like invested interest in like here, and the property, and he's been out there. and he did
Can you
some-
get out there without a boat?
I don't think so now, unless you do it in the winter when it's frozen.
Yeah, there
Oh,
used to
some
be-
places aren't.
Well, that's, yeah, right, yeah, it's.
I love it.
I don't know what it's for.
I had no idea.
I get bored. So it's bored.
So my suggestion was the Pam can respond and ask him to come in with a little bit more detail in the presentation.
Yeah.
Informal, informational, it's not like we're having an official hearing on it.
Yeah.
For some
How old is
reason,
this young person?
High school.
he's Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout, yeah.
So usually a senior in high
Is he
school.
Eagle Scout or is he going?
Go.
I think this is his Eagle Scout project.
The freshman in high school or senior?
I don't know. If you would hear
I think,
the.
I think the experience of coming before
It's be that age, that age.
board is part of growing up, so.
As a high school teacher, I agree.
Let's scare the crap.
I know, I was just gonna say it's gonna be tough on him, but tell me to do it.
Remember, nobody else.
Okay. Are we gonna ask for a tree diameter?
Did you ask for a waiver?
We have Hamlet. Okay, so the last item is the Mass Environmental Board Bill discussion, which basically is that the Massachusetts. What group was it?
Ready.
It's not great.
If you read through it.
I have a printed copy, but I left.
She gave me the copy.
It's like the plaza.
What was
So
it?
they're trying to pass it in an emergency bill. We only have until the 29th to make.
Yeah, why?
Why?
Why the emergency bill?
Because somebody
Yeah,
was
that's
proposing it.
Because she's stopping permitting,
Right,
restrict,
Yes, but.
concept.
right.
So they are asking that the associate, MICC is asking that we respond as a board. I think it would be a good idea. There are things such as priority housing projects, which have not been defined yet, but will be defined in the next 6 months, will not require environmental impact report. They might not need a public hearing. These priority housing projects will just be able to be approved no matter how close to the buffer zone, where they are.
Yeah, this is what's causing it to be an emergency. This is part of the, get rid of the single family housing.
My question was, are these priority housing projects like the two that have been identified for the town location wise as being the Charles Apartments and the?
No, what they're saying is, in 6 months, we will lay out certain criteria that we will call priority housing projects, and they're gonna basically be approved.
The state overrides the Conservation Commission.
Yeah,
Just like
no,
the city and town.
things will be taken away from, like culverts will no longer be under our things, we can get that taken away from us. There's
Just for
something
these
else
projects or for everything?
for these projects, but they're also gonna include certain things like projects in the buffer zone, and certain specific plans will now go to Superior Court instead of the
If they're appealed.
if they're appealed, which who will that benefit more than anything else? And are for some of these projects, and again, they haven't specified what these projects will be and what they will encompass. Local wetlands bylaws shall not apply.
Yeah.
So it's. No public hearing required, general license,
Does
no
you
environmental
open
impact
with,
report.
this is pretty good.
No, this is
No.
bad. It's bad.
This is important. This is pretty
Like,
important.
not very good.
They work in house.
No, this is a,
Yes, I,
There is no housing crisis. It's a population crisis. There's too many people in the state.
Green Creek.
Agree with
The
that.
infrastructure is busted. there's no water, the roads are maxed. From, huh? It's not a housing crisis, it's an infrastructure population crisis.
You can't go to the office and live there all the time.
Too many people.
Okay, so we have till the 29th, which means we have to respond. August 29th or?
No,
No.
it's July
Sorry.
29th.
So we need to come up with, do you?
I'm so fired up about this.
Do the short one that have we draft a response?
Well,
Yes.
usually when MACC offers comments, they offer a draft.
They
They
have-
offer a draft.
Just today, they emailed not a draft, but just like something.
This is my copy.
Yeah, I have to try to get a meeting with, who. Guys, the profit, I haven't been able to get any. So.
There's gonna be another, they're gonna have another.
Let's start tomorrow.
Tomorrow, so
But
it's
I
a
think
free
it's fine.
Zoom
I
in,
think
you
this
can.
is a priority
you-
for
I had the
us.
one last week.
Yeah, you did
respond
last,
to-
yeah, for.
I know, that's how I
They sent
figured
out
out
an
more
email
because I saw your
reminder to
name. I
people,
was like, I don't do that.
MACC yesterday or today saying, here's the link to go join the lunch tomorrow. So if you haven't seen that, contact Anna or me or somebody tomorrow and we can forward it to you.
So-
I think it's at noon tomorrow. Just listen in, you might get more information or about a draft or whatever, or how to do this for the commission. My sense tonight is that we wanted to see if we want to approve the idea of issuing some sort of response as a board.
Yes,
And if so, whether we go off of whatever MACC suggests, whether we want to draft something ourselves in the next 7 days, 6 days.
Draft letter out.
Well,
And we should go,
yeah, in our letter, I've seen it before in public comment periods where. Found specifically say. As a commission, we agree with the sentiment of this person's comment and leave it at that.
I
And it's-
haven't seen a letter yet, but I did see one of the NACC staff people had testified with the letter and the Columbia Board of Directors testified with the letter, so those were two
She
people.
will put all her notes in the chat, you can see it on the right letter.
Right.
What I did.
That's the best. It's amazing how well, then you just tweak it, right?
Yeah.
very worth it for each of us as individuals to try and like comment on this and speak to senators and whatnot. But also as a board, I wouldn't mind writing some of this up. So MACC as of right now has had like comment ideas, but there's no specific draft. That 29th is coming up pretty quick.
Yeah.
yes, and the whole second half of this is like law language changes.
Yeah. Which I couldn't understand what
The
the
only
impact
way
is of all the.
I can make sense of whether it's good is to go back and read what it was.
Right.
I had to do that.
And then
And
up
there's-
front, they want to get rid of, council and replace it with designee.
There was.
State level designee.
And there was some stupid stuff too, like. In section 9, golf courses are now exempt from irrigation interruption. Oh, that's good when we have a drought. Like, why, for what?
I wanna know who's writing this.
Well, Rebecca Rush. Signed off by the Warren League. It's just, it's,
Rebecca Rush is a state employee.
yeah, she's our senator.
Oh, there's no way she wrote that. This is.
Okay, well.
Yeah. This is 100%
Okay,
coming.
okay,
from-
well, she
She's a
is here,
senator.
so.
So probably all earmarks.
Okay. I think it was, who actually wrote it? I'm told by.
I just curious if it had active.
So to move this along, Matt, just like pull up an invitation that came out Monday from the MACC. So it's tomorrow at 12 to 1 virtual pre-registration. They may not have access to that email. They want me to forward to them. I'd recommend for the email. Just sign up for it. Register, you'll get LinkedIn or you get the invite with actual Zoom location. Day, 6 months. So I invite you if you have an hour, you can do it. If not, I think they tape it and you can access it. But anyway, how do we want to proceed with Pam seems to either take this on as a start. Do you want to draft something up after tomorrow and see what you, in the next day or two after that, till you have a chance, and then send it out to town members? And if we're all in some agreement, we can.
Yes, but I will warn you that tone will be similar to the tone that I'm speaking with right now.
Oh, I
And
like.
that's how that's just how I communicate when I'm fired up.
Are you
That's
going
what it's
to
gonna be.
TI it, that's trumpet, like all caps or what? Because that
No.
makes it more important.
And all I can say is typically I'm the same, however. Don't be so Tony, you get immediately dismissed. that the letter was like,
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
where-
write it to get on the.
And I think there was a couple things that, like, the MACC people didn't know arts funding, and like changes to the act with the whole climate resiliency is an interest in the act being added. Those were a couple things they've been like trying to get. I feel like if you go and like, yes, it's great, so we did really bad.
It's just
Compliment
so,
sandwich, you know?
yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating to see them try and
You
push
gotta
this
write
stuff
your feelings.
through.
oh, absolutely.
People worked really hard to get these regulations in place, you know, like been fought for a long time to get these regulations.
So regulations, it's not town bylaw, but we're
They're
trying to.
It's like emergency words.
What do you think of the bylaws change with regulation?
I find her opening comment in her letter, based on what this is, insulting.
Yeah.
Offensive. Build resilience for Massachusetts communities, build resilience. You know how many articles talk about technology advances?
Yeah.
And when does a housing permit build resilience?
Well, and
Not for the
then we've heard a
environment.
lot about
Climate
more
risk?
alien housing, and now we're seeing how she wants to do it, is my opinion.
And just so you know, Nicole, the town last year, I think it was last year, Kirk Franklin, one people, was required by the state, by the governor's office, to, as one of the affected commuter towns, abutting Franklin's T-stop, basically, we were, among other towns, required to come up with locations in town, I guess, for lack of a better word, that could be used as portable housing for people basically in Boston to be able to get back and forth.
See
Yeah,
the percentages
Transit orange
increase?
development.
So what they did was, instead of saying, and I think it was 100 units total, 50 or something, I don't remember. Anyway, there's a quantity associated, that units that would have to be available to be on the site. What they did is, the town decided, instead of saying, here's 50 acres or whatever we're gonna put aside of town property, to someday maybe be built on, maybe not, they didn't have to actually be building on. They said there are 2 locations right now, which have got approved, I don't know how. One is the parcels on 126 that are the Carl's now in East Lexington Apartments. And they're about on North Main Street coming out of center town on the right there.
Yep.
Right next to the RV park. Okay, so that was one, and then the Curtis Apartments, which are on Mendon Street, 140 rather, going just before you hit the red refill.
Yep.
And that took us down the right. Those were approved as, by the state, I guess, and accepted by the state as being your 2 alternate locations. The question is, if you're gonna create affordable housing, you can't build more houses on these sites, that's only occupiable buildings, but if you're going to use them and say, okay, people from Boston can now live there, you got people living there already, where are you gonna kick those people out? I don't understand how they can prove that.
Well, they just lower the price of or something, they don't sell it.
Yeah, that's
Was being able to demonstrate.
They're gonna make.
I didn't question that, because I'm- Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, we were at the, I went to the town
Okay,
meeting.
so,
Topic for a different.
so we have a plan, Pam's gonna draft up something and shoot it out to us. Feel free to comment, get back to her, keep in mind that it is.
Please, thank you, by the way.
And I suggest you, those of you who can listen to the hearing, might pick up some really good stuff, information wise tomorrow.
You gotta register in
Mr.
advance.
Chair, I
just registered.
One other bit of business, I don't know if now is appropriate. I would like to nominate Ariane for vice chair.
We're going to do an organizational meeting at the next. You guys think about, I was gonna mention that to be thinking about that, Hannah, I want to give Nicole a chance, we weren't sure if we should be sworn in by tonight, we hoped it, and then didn't want to push it, but we are also opening, as I think Hannah put in an email, the chair position as well, I'm happy to step aside and let somebody else, if they feel they want to. I'm only.
You don't have your dad joke about it.
I'm only senior in age here, folks. I'm not a senior in experience or qualifications for environmental details and legislative stuff where I've been around, stuck it out longer than.
What is everybody's background now? Sounds like
I
you guys.
graduated in '81 with environmental science degree, which when I got on Concom about 40 years later, I was happy to be using a little bit because I haven't used much, but I'm worked in the nonprofit property management sector for organization for 36 years and then senior person at that place is no personal.
I'm the evil
Talk very
stepchild,
fast.
I'm in construction.
Yeah, he's
Oh, okay.
James.
I'm kind of evil in the night.
Yes.
But he gives us insight into the evil mind.
And as such has been to, including tonight, multiple boards around the
Yeah, I
town.
was down.
That's great.
So A couple things. I
Play
wanted
long
to say.
game?
No, go ahead.
Well, to finish the nomination would be my nomination, you stay as chair, Harry on vice chair, and if Harry on doesn't want to accept it, James would be my second.
We want you to bring that up at the next meeting as an official thing, because I think we want to reorganize the next meeting, and it's as simple as, I think we let.
It's just that it's an open, I talked to somebody
Yeah.
about it, so it's like an open nomination, like on the floor, and then you nominate, and then they can accept it, and then you do a vote.
Yeah.
I get a little
So
bit
pretty
more
straightforward.
different, but
Yeah,
I think it's pretty
it's
good.
very straightforward. I want to make sure it's done parliamentary procedure wise, since it hasn't been done officially. I don't even know. I don't remember how.
We're technically doing it every year, so that'll
You're
probably.
really wanting it, like, never actually voted in.
I just think. I
No,
know,
it was in a meeting with Mike.
Great, I wanna hear, now that we're spelling all our records, I make a noise.
Don,
I graduated with a biology degree, education. 17 years in surgeon education.
I was a business.
Urban, you can
Environmental,
educate surgeons?
yeah. I didn't technically educate, but my team did. And outdoor enthusiasts, so.
you never educate the surgeons when they have this stuff.
Well, sometimes then it seemed about hundreds and hundreds of operations.
Okay, I'm an environmental scientist, and I do mostly like phase ones, which are property assessment, basically, like within the district. Currently I work for an engineering firm, so I'm dealing with like civil, structural, wetlands. Right now, I currently find my knowledge is just enough to keep me.
Oh, I like that.
And her comments sneak up on you both auditorily, because she's usually too soft spoken, but also she catches you. with
Oh,
good
she catches the
regulations.
details. I love it.
Love it.
I love it. Yeah.
I work for a software company.
You're way smarter than me, anyways.
Something goes down up there, oh, okay.
My fiance used to do environmental drilling for years. He was, geotechnical, and these are all like, that's kind of what drew me into it, talking about his soils and his wetlands. But now he works on, surgical recon equipment, actually, for element protection people, so he goes to different hospitals, and installs, maintains, repairs surgical sanitation equipment. So he's just mechanically minded.
But make sure the scalpels are clean for the next person, so that's for sure. Kenna, you want to, I don't know if you and Nicole talked.
She has her own personal labeled
I
soil.
kicked her
test.
door down, I was like.
You wanna see a core being drilled? She'll say.
Nicole comes from the private sector, so she's on the other side of the fence, running environmental stuff for, what was the company?
Natural resources.
I'm highly recommended from, their president, whatever, chair, president of the company, owner of the company. No, but it doesn't hurt to have a public.
I'm glad everyone knows what we do.
I'm sure people are still.
Okay, so, yeah, so that's where we're coming from. Okay, I will accept unless somebody else, oh, no, sorry, Steve, you done? Okay, I you said you're going to let you go. All right, so we will be, looking for nominations and all that. We'll do that in the open meeting. We don't need, there's no requirement to close the meeting, but good idea. And I'm gonna suggest we do it at the very beginning of the meeting, so we delay and so just be prepared when we first come in the 13th to do that. Do we have, cover us the agenda looking? 13th, we want to do orientation meeting, not the 6th that we do.
Oh, do it at the start.
Yeah, so I just realized now that the only thing we potentially had on the 6th was if Lou had requested a continuation.
Except they
was it?
need it, that's why. I didn't
But-
do something
but-
else. No, that was why I didn't.
We ended up not
do that. We didn't. We proved it.
Right. So the other thing was the lady of the trees that we met, and on 60s. We
I was
had
like,
to respond.
I feel like we were talking about that about 3 days ago.
Yeah, it does seem like that. I'm sorry, it almost means
These
never.
meetings
goes-
usually go until
Well, that's my chance to wish, and I initially said to you something about 8 to 9, I said, I'd cross that off when I did my response, yes, let's say, 2 or 3 hours. 2 hours is desirable, but when we tackle road patrols and site projects, they will go on someone, I want to give every commission member a chance to have input, because this is the time we have to do it. You know, it means we can't do it on sidewalks, not allowed to talk about it. We can't, even if 4 or 5 team members get together at a social occasion or come in for another meeting, you're not allowed to discuss any project to the violate open meeting law. So, I'm just.
Unless you're right, and it's-
Okay, so I will accept the motion if nobody has anything else to close the.
So moved.
Steve, second. Oh, he's doing, so Steve, he skipped past. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.